All right, there we go. We're recording the promo. It's official. This is the third or fourth time I've had to record this thing. I don't know. You guys know the drill. If you guys watch this podcast on a regular basis, you know the drill. For some godforsaken reason, and I still haven't figured this out, but something goes wrong every single podcast. Tonight, it was the ad read. So let's hope that is a sign of things to come, and everything else is going to be juicy. I've never said juicy before in my life. What the fuck is going on? It's going to be a weird podcast, guys. I'm just going to say it right now. Anyways, listen. If you guys haven't already, please hit subscribe to this podcast. Go to my YouTube channel. We're still on that grind to that first 1,000 subscribers. It's the easiest way to support the podcast, you guys, because it's free. There's no obligation to do anything. If you subscribe, and especially if you hit the thumbs up and the notification bell, it's the easiest way to help support the podcast. It really does help a lot. It helps YouTube understand that you guys like this shit, and they should push it to more people because they might like it as well. So do me a favor, if you haven't already, please hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and hit the notification bell. It's the easiest way to help the podcast grow. It is free. You want to take it a step further though, okay? You can go to patreon.com/JaredSingerLive. That's the best way to support the podcast. And that you can do, I think you can do a one-time donation, but really the whole point of Patreon is you can sign up for a monthly subscription. We are releasing ad-free content. I just don't know where you guys want me to put that. Hold on, something's going on here. I can hear something coming back through a microphone somewhere. I don't know what the hell's going on, but hold on. There, hopefully that's better. So I just don't know where you guys want that ad-free content, whether you guys want a separate YouTube channel, whether you guys want to go direct to my website, or whether you guys want like your own separate iTunes feed. So go to Patreon, sign up. It's as low as $3 a month. There are higher tiers if you want to do that, where you will be getting even more content, special access to certain things, merchandise, discounts, pre-sales when we start doing some bigger stuff. A lot of really cool stuff going on over there, but that is hands down the best way to help support the podcast. Like I said before, a lot of you guys have sent me comments saying that you notice the podcast is sounding a lot better. Well, that's why. That's because of the Patreons. Okay, if you guys notice the podcast is starting to look better than it did 6 months ago, that's because of the Patreons. We have the ability to get bigger guests, but sometimes I either got to go to them, or I would literally need to fly them out from LA or Dallas or New York or wherever in Florida. I don't have that kind of cash, but we can still pull that off if we get enough people in the Patreon. So do me a favor, if you want to go that extra mile, go over to patreon.com/JaredSingerLive, and you can help support the podcast financially, and you will get extra bonus content. When you get there, let me know where you guys want to see that bonus content. Like, when you want the ad-free shit, do you want it on iTunes, YouTube, or just directly on my website? Let me know. All right, enough of that. Late as fuck, that's my other YouTube channel at the top of my YouTube page. You can go there and hit subscribe to that. We should have that stuff coming out here pretty soon. This episode of the podcast is also sponsored by Shooter Lube. You can go to shooterlube.com and join the revolution by using promo code SINGER and saving 15% down on checkout. And this episode of the podcast is also sponsored by WeHost.WernerElements.com. This is shared web hosting, you guys, with a carbon-free footprint. Werner Elements is your partner in growth. We specialize in working with startups, small businesses, artists, comedians, musicians, and podcasters. We focus on community growth. Werner Elements is your one-stop shop for all your marketing and graphic design needs, from logo creation, website design management, to content creation, setting up social media, and even creating ad campaigns. First things first, though, you guys need that website. This is exclusive for JSE listeners. Go to wehost.wernerelements.com and use promo code SINGER. You get a free domain registration. You get a year's worth of hosting, unlimited emails, unlimited bandwidth, unlimited storage, and a carbon-free footprint. So you can have that nice millennial guilt-free vibe. Ooh, you're green. Ooh, baby, juicy. I don't know why I'm fucking saying juicy tonight. I've never used that analogy in my entire life. Anyways, that's enough of the spot for tonight. Gotta pay the bills somehow, right, though? My guest for tonight is the incomparable Tim Java. He's been on the podcast before. We did a 6-hour podcast. It was one of the longest ones we've ever done. I don't think we're going to do another 6 hours tonight. I highly doubt that'll happen again, but I got to know him a lot since then. He's a great guy. I'm a huge fan of this dude. He's a good buddy, and I just think he's a stellar human being, and I hope you guys like this podcast as much as I do. All right, with no further ado, let's do it. Tim Java. Complicated lives.
Yeah.
And I think they are lacking the ability to prioritize. I think that's the biggest thing that's been killing us. Not just my own project, but like almost society wise.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not going to name names, but I got a buddy said he wanted to start a YouTube channel reviewing movies.
Okay.
I'm like, dude, fucking go buy $100 microphone, USB. I'll even tell you which one to. I'll send you the link. And go buy a $100 camera. For $200, you can start a YouTube channel. This is something you can make money on, right? And this is a passion of his. So he could potentially make money and be happy doing it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
You know, mainly one of them. But yeah, no, that's the same deal. Kind of, you know, why I had to sort of step away. Wasn't able to help you out because it just...
Yeah, you can't thin yourself out, you know?
Too many things. And I already had things in the, you know, in the pipeline that
you're in
were
like
already paid for. And
that's why there's no hard feelings, you know? It's like, I get it, you know?
Yeah.
It fucking makes sense.
Wouldn't be the first time I had to kind of... You know, that's also kind of why I start, and I call it a discovery session first. You know?
That's a new hip industry term I've been hearing a lot lately.
Yeah, well, it's actually pretty standard corporate contractor talk. You know, like before you close a contract as a contractor, you have a discovery session. Does this even make sense? Because you don't want to give people's hopes up. You don't want to, we're doing this, and then you get into it, and you're like, oh shit, this is clearly not going to work. You know, you got to have a discovery session.
It seems like in the corporate world I grew up, and maybe they just are changing terms, but that used to just be a consultation or a quote or a bid.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And now I'm hearing discovery session in the music and entertainment industry, especially with this podcasting shit.
Yeah.
Like, it was weird because it was the first time I had heard it was from you. It was like 2-3 months ago already. And since then, I've heard it 3 different times.
Oh, really?
When people like want to collaborate with the podcast stuff.
Okay.
They're like,
cool.
hey, you know, we want to collaborate. Let's do a discovery session. And I'm like, no, just tell me what you want to do. Like even bigger YouTubers than me, because I can't truly benefit from these collabs because I don't have 1,000 subs. So I can't get tagged in their shit and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's like it would help me, but at the same time, not 100% to where I'm just going to like sit down and spend, again, 2 hours with just any asshole from the internet.
Right.
I don't care if you got 5,000 or 15,000 subs.
Right.
Like, I have a lot going on in my life. And yeah, 2 hours to sit down and discover some shit with you. Like, nah, just tell me in a fucking email. That's the point of these things. You know? Our deal was a little different because we're doing art together. And it was like, we had already had that conversation a couple times. Here's what I want you to do. See if you're down with it. Send me the tracks. Let's do a discovery session. Here's what I got back and forth. And I liked it. But yeah, it's a priority thing. And I respect the fact in our situation where you can be like, listen, dude, this is not a big enough priority for me. And you didn't use these words, but this is the reality.
Right.
My project wasn't a big enough priority for you to put it as one of your top 2-3 things.
Yeah. And even the way I kind of...
Some people take that offensively.
Yeah, well...
I'm like, no, dude.
Probably not. And there you go. That's why it's probably good to have a discovery session. Because if they're going to be like that, you probably don't want to work with them anyway, you know? But
I've had that though where I'm like, dude, if I'm not big enough, like I get it. Just this isn't a priority. You've got bigger fish to fry. And they're like, that's not fair. And I'm like, dude, that's not only fair, but that's accurate. Like you have bigger priorities.
Well, and that means right now, right? Like maybe 6 months, 2 years from now, well, then maybe it works. But if you come out of the gates and you're pissed about that, well, now you just squashed any possibility of working together, right? Because, you know, it's just, people got to be cool, you know, and kind of when I look at, for music specifically, when I look at it as a discovery session, I almost even think about it as I'm discovering the music itself. Like I've never heard this before. I'm sitting down to play the drums to it. I'm discovering the music, right? Like and I want to get that excitement. I want to get that. I don't want to listen to it a bunch of times and then play to it because it's, almost kind of come across as a little contrived in my own brain, right? I want to discover the song, and discovery should be fun, right? So in that discovery session, I'm going to overplay. I'm going to play a bunch of extra fills,
now,
right?
That's because, correct me, I'm not trying to stop you. I just want to make sure I understand you. And you're saying this because we were technically writing something together, even though the song was already done and there was shitty drums there already.
Mm-hmm.
But we were writing something together. Whereas, like, if you were just taking a jobber gig and you're supposed to play parts that are already written, you're not going to do that. It's not a discovery, correct? Or am I wrong?
Yeah.
Like for example, if fucking My Chemical Romance hired you to go on tour, you're not going to do a discovery session where you're going to discover and play along as you're learning the tunes. No, you're going to go in like a clinic because you got a job to do now. It's not about art.
Exactly.
And that's why it's totally different when you look at these things like that.
Right. No, a gig like that, I'm committed before I even listen or I sit down at the drums. I'm going to research, okay, what did the previous guy do? What does his kit look like? How many pieces? I'm going to want to kind of replicate what fans and people expect to see. I'm not going to come in and just change the game and now it's my show. Right. That's a completely different scenario. That's 100%. That's a professional environment where you're hired for a job specifically.
Dude, and I'm like kind of doing that right now because I got an audition coming up.
Awesome, congrats,
man. And I'm like, hey, don't congratulate me yet, dude. It's just an audition. but I'm having this having this problem, this inner turmoil, so to speak, because like the songs are done. Mm-hmm. I need to play them his way, but there's just certain things he does that I don't do.
Yeah.
And there's certain things I just naturally do that he doesn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Like ways we do fills.
And was that like a prerequisite? Was that kind of a part of it where they're like, you gotta play it just like this?
Nope.
You gotta. So you're
nothing has been discussed.
You're sort of doing that to yourself, maybe
exactly.
a little
it's
bit.
Inner turmoil. That's what I said because Perfect. I'm not sure if I should play it straight because I'm both filling a job that's already done, but also auditioning as a future band member and songwriter. You see what I'm getting at here?
Absolutely. Yep.
So it's not like they sent me 3 songs, learn these as is, and here's 2 new songs, play whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're going, here's the set list.
Yep.
It's kind of starts as like a fill-in deal, but the biggest requisite they have for whether they want to have a member is, are you cool to hang with? Check.
Yep.
And number 2, I mean, I can get a little annoying at times, but but whatever, everybody can. Number 2, can you write? Definite check. Okay, but that's literally not what this audition is. This audition is learning a set list to play and fill in live. So you start making those calls like, is this a point where I should show, hey, you know what? I can basically rewrite this entire section. Yeah. And to you guys and to the band and to the rhythm section, nothing changes. To the fans, they might even think it sounds cooler. Oh my God, that drummer's way better. Right. But this could literally alienate the audition, and they go, no, he didn't play it close enough to the record because we didn't have that talk.
Yeah,
it's tough, dude. It's fucking
tough. It reminds me of that's how Dead to Fall was for me. It was they were already on tour and they didn't really have a choice. They needed somebody. They weren't in an auditioning capacity. There was just a level of trust that I was going to come in and do it. So they didn't really have any prerequisites for me. So I kind of just said, fuck it. I'm going to overplay. I'm going to play my style. I'm going to evolve this and turn it into sort of my thing.
Because you didn't really audition.
No.
They kind of said, hey, will you do this?
Yeah. And the tour ended. A week later, I was on the next tour. And so I was able to get away with playing whatever the hell I wanted, as long as it didn't ruin the song, So
when you did that, did you stick to because when I break down drums, right? I learned this from a pro back in the day, and he goes, if you really listen hard, the drummer's essentially playing the same beat the entire song. And then it's like, that's kind of your foundation. and then everything else that happens in the song, it's like painting a picture around like your main beat throughout the song. That's your Mona Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
And then the colors and the shading in the background, that's everything else you're doing in the song.
Yeah, that's the shape of your brush. That's the paints you're using.
Yeah, and absolutely. So like when I listen to and I do auditions like that, I go, okay, this core beat needs to stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
All the shit where I'm going to overplay and do all that, that's what I'm going to do. You do it kind of the same way as all that shit around? That's where you
Pretty
get
much.
To show that creativity.
Yeah.
And then to show the respect. Yep. And not alienate the song, you still paint Mona Lisa the way she looks.
Yeah, definitely, especially out of the gates, because you don't, it's you got to be able to play with the guys, right? There's kind of two levels to it. There's the internal aspect to it, right? Can you even keep the guys happy you're on stage with? But then there's also the people that come out to the shows. And do you show up and all of a sudden their favorite drummer isn't there anymore, and now you're the asshole that's overplaying and not playing what they showed up and expected to see? So there's kind of a twofold level to that.
Yep. Especially if it's a band that like they were underplaying the drums intentionally to begin with.
Right.
I sent an audition tape, and dude's actually been on the podcast a few times. Huh. I sent an audition tape. Well, it was a recording, not a tape, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And he was like, look, man, you're really good, but you're just way overplaying. And it was like, all I did was made a couple of the fills slightly more elaborate because they were fucking boring.
Sure.
Right? They were just straight up boring. But that was it. Yeah. Like, I didn't get the job. There was no, try it again, dumb down.
Yeah. A lot of times with that too, at least
so hard.
At least for me, hard. I think when I'm in that situation, when I'm overplaying, again, it's kind of that discovery session thing. What I mean by that is like, I might not know all the changes specifically, meaning, the fourth bar of a guitar riff, they might slightly change the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the original drummer is playing to. But because I haven't like fully learned, I might know there's 4 bars, but I might not know the difference in the fourth bar. So I'm going to probably change the fill, and that means I'm overplaying, but it's simply because I just didn't have enough time, or I haven't put in the time to actually learn the song. So I think a lot of times people you're not so much overplaying as it's just you just haven't learned the song to 100%, right?
Yeah.
But then once you get out and you've been touring on these songs for a long time, you're internalizing them, then you can make them your own, but now you're playing for the song, right? So, again, to use Dead to Fall as an example, after a tour or two, I kind of start to tighten it up, start to kind of play more of the song, but then maybe I'll change the pocket a little bit on the second repeat of it. Now I'm kind of making it my own. But so it's always a balance, right?
So how do you, when you're in that position, how do you cheat that? And what I mean by cheat that is like, what's your cheat code? What's your, we all do this, whether it's you're studying for a test. Here's how I do it. I go through and I speed read and I highlight things that I think are important. And then, I do a fake test, and then I go through and then I really read and then I write it down, whatever. That's your cheat, right? Sometimes your cheat is actually way more work than it needs to be, but it doesn't matter. That's your cheat, right?
Sure.
Do you just drill it where you go, okay, I'm going to do this discovery session mentality relentlessly until I have completed the tune? Or do you only do that like a handful of times and then go, okay, I kind of get what I want to do here. I got some cool vibes and some cool ideas. And then do you sit down and listen to it repetitively? And then like, what is that? What is your cheat for when you're doing that, where it's like, I don't have 6 months with this whole album like they did, when not only did they have 6 months, but they were writing it. So it's not even like they had 6 months to learn it front to back. They had 6 months to learn it chunk by chunk as they wrote it.
Right.
What is your cheat? Because we're all different in this respect.
Right.
There is no rule here. This is one of the very few things where there is 0 rules. What's your cheat for getting that accomplished, especially in a short amount of time?
Yeah. My cheat for that is just I have a toolbox of rudiments and fills that I can rely on, that people seem to be okay with me using. I think it's just
let's just recap real quick, because to start off, especially as people are slowly trickling in as we start these things, there's never anybody watching at the beginning, right?
Right.
So you're doing this discovery session on purpose. You don't pre-listen to the music,
right?
And you literally find out the BPMs. If there's any timing changes, you preset those up for yourself so you can be in the pocket from get-go.
Yep.
And you record yourself creatively playing along and reacting and discovering them in real time.
Right.
And then you do that for a while until you're ready. And then that's what I'm asking you, is that cheat. So once you've realized, okay, I've got some ideas here, how are we speeding that up? So you're saying you've got certain fills and rudiments that you can go to.
Yeah. You know, it's
what does that mean though? Like, so are you saying you have like, okay, I get it, this is a 4/4 part where the main snare is on the 2 and the 4. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. I've got 37 tools in my toolbox to make a dope part no matter what the riff is. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
It's that, you know, having played the drums for so long, you know, your toolbox just gets bigger and bigger. You know, you buy more tools, aka in drumland, you've been playing drums more and more that I mean, think about it. When you started playing drums, there are certain fills that you just like to do. It's easier to practice doing those because it's more rewarding to do those, right? Mm-hmm. And the more you do those, the more they repetitiously get ingrained in your muscle memory.
True.
And then you get better at moving those around the kit. The more you get comfortable moving those around the kit, the bigger that toolbox gets, right?
100%.
And then all of a sudden,
then staying on it and keeping those tools sharp.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? That's my biggest one, is like I take time off and like I'm struggling to do certain things, and I'm like, dude, I don't get what's wrong. And then all of a sudden one day I'm sitting there jamming and I go, oh, it's because I always started on my left hand. Right. This is, so if you start everything on your right, this is what every drummer complains about. And I was like, this is how, like, 6 months into drumming, I like literally went, this sucks, I'm going to do this. And I learned how to start fills on my left hand.
Yeah.
And then double somewhere in there on a double stroke. Right. So I could end on whatever hand I want to at will in the middle of, as I'm improving.
Yeah.
But then I take time off.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting over here and I can't play my own songs that I tracked 6 weeks ago. Sure. I'm like, how did I play that fill? Oh, God. Boom. Boom. Got it. Okay.
Well, that too. And then also just, you know, if you start to finding inspiration in new things is also really important too, right? You know, you might kind of master some things or feel you've mastered some things and you got to add another drawer to the toolbox, we'll say, right?
Sure.
So now we'll go and I'll listen to another band that I like and I'll be inspired by what the drummer's doing in that. So that might kind of reinvigorate some sense of inspiration, right? So it's always kind of and then I think once you do enough of that and you get inspired by enough people and you add enough drawers to your toolbox, then you have a vast enough toolkit where you can kind of start to create your own rudiments, your own things. And I almost think that's another level because you're inspired by yourself.
Is that where we start, as musicians, we start to develop our own style?
Absolutely.
So it's not just a set of things I go through in my toolbox. It's a way I do these things.
Right.
And I've started to reinvent my own weird little shit. I've got this weird, starts on the snare, floats through the toms, and ends up on a big crack back on the snare. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing this weird double bass flutter. Not like a drill, not like a fucking machine. It's this weird flutter where it's like a double, a single, two. I can't break it down. I'd literally have to do it in full 180 BPM and then slow it down to like 90.
That's
in order for me to actually count it out and go, oh, here, because I can't actually even do it at slower tempos properly. Right. Like if you're like, just slow it down for me so I can see it. I can't. I'm like, it's something like this, and I can kind of get close, but if I want to do it right, I got to speed it up or just do it in real time.
Yeah, that's good you do that though, because it's. I mean, that really is, and that's I think a thing people really don't know, and they grew up kind of doing it the wrong way, which I am completely at fault for this, and I still struggle to do it. Where you really do need to kind of you're really going to learn something properly, you got to slow it down. You got to do it slow, slowly speed it up, but most people, they're just like, boom, out of the gates, quick as you can.
Well, and drums are one of those weird things that's easier to learn fast.
I don't know. I
like
mean,
if you really learn the like that kind of drum and bass vibe, way easier to play at a high BPM. If you try to slow that down to almost like a
right, in
it's
theory,
way harder because you're not
well, you're not getting the satisfaction of playing it fast, and that's what drum and bass is, right? It's a lot of fast licks,
think? Because
right?
I'm thinking it's the bounce, because I've heard this from other drummers. Like, it's a common thing for shittier drummers like me to be able to play something really good at tempo.
But that's you getting satisfaction out of actually doing it.
You think it's that simple?
Absolutely. Because it's just always, I mean, it doesn't matter what the instrument is. It's technically speaking, when you slow something down, you get the hand actually doing what it's supposed to do at a slower speed. When you speed it up, now you're in more control. You're actually able to stay on tempo. But it's a mental game. It's hard to do that because it's not fun to do it. It's not.
So I agree with everything you said.
That dopamine rush.
I agree
that
with
it's like, oh, I'm doing it. You have.
Do you really think it's just the satisfaction though that is that difference? Because you pointed out the technical aspects.
Yeah.
But you're really emphasizing like you said, the dopamine, the serotonin release, and all that. So
it's absolutely the deal. Because
guitar's the exact opposite. Guitar's really easy.
Guitar's the same thing. I think
guitar's way easier to learn something properly at a slow speed and then speed it up.
I think it's all the same. I think it's all the thing. I don't know, man. It's a human.
I don't know.
It's human muscles.
What do you guys think in chat?
Something.
If anybody's watching right now yet, or if you're listening, or if you're listening back or watching back, I think the people who are going to have the most credibility on this are multi-instrument players.
Of course.
And that's why I have this opinion, is because like I notice there's similarities between guitar and drums when I'm learning and progressing and banging off rust.
Yeah.
And then there's drastic differences.
Well, I can I don't know, not so much agree, but I can go along with that conversation.
Because you play guitar too, right?
I don't know.
I thought you did.
Just drums. That's it. That's
why you're so good.
Probably because, well, in comparison, because
it goes back to our first, where we start. It's time and priorities.
Yeah,
when you had free time to spend creatively, it was spent on drums,
and that's it. I don't spread it out across other things.
7 years wasting time being a lead vocalist.
Yeah.
Like I was a great frontman. Don't get me wrong. But I nailed being a great frontman in like 3 days.
Right.
Not to be cocky, but I'm serious. Like I was
you're developing
I was a
different
better
things,
frontman.
Yeah.
I was a better frontman day one than a lot of guys in the industry, not just the local scene.
Mm-hmm.
As a frontman, dude, I was day one out of the gate at 17, 18 years old. I was already a better frontman than a lot of guys after 5 or 10 years in front of big crowds. Because it was like a talent thing, right? And after 3, 4, 5 days, and I'm obviously exaggerating, but after 3, 4, 5 days, right? Like I had already honed that talent into a skill, and there's just not a lot you can do. So it was like, okay, but 7 years later, it didn't matter how much time and energy I put into, I was never going to be a great singer. Mm-hmm. And that was 7 years I could have put into being a better guitar player and or a drummer.
Right.
See what I'm saying? So it's like,
and
priorities, man. My priorities were fucked up.
Well, not really. I think that there's just as much. It's just a different avenue, right? And I can totally go down that rabbit hole and imagine why playing things slower as a guitar player is more rewarding than playing things slowing as a drummer, because you're playing melodic notes. You're playing things that are harmony wise, right? So you can take a fast guitar riff and slow it down. You might get more mental satisfaction out of playing a guitar riff slowly because it's notes, right? It's harmonic. It's different.
The only place we're disagreeing, for any of the listeners or anybody chiming in or just jumping in, anybody that's confused, the only place we diverge is that I think the difference is that purely the technical aspect, and you might be going more thick brain. Like I might be smooth brain right now. I might be thinking like a caveman, one-dimensional or even three-dimensional. You might be going fourth dimensional. I don't know. But where we're disagreeing is like you're putting way more credibility into the satisfaction of accomplishing these tasks.
Well, I think just a common error musicians make when they're starting and they have these goals and these dreams of getting somewhere someday, I think that's mostly why I'm kind of pushing for that state of mind.
But I guess is what I'm saying though,
because
is like,
and I'll tell you why.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Because let's say, this is what I've struggled with. This is why I haven't gotten big gigs, right? Because
you haven't.
Yes, this is why I've.
You mean bigger? Because you've gotten big gigs. You mean bigger gigs?
Of course. Well, there's always bigger gigs, right? And I think it's because
I just don't want people to think you've only played for like 200 people. Like you're extremely successful. You're a professional.
I appreciate that.
You're one of the people I respect the most in this instrument or in this industry, especially on your instrument. Go ahead.
Well, just because what ends up happening,
false humility.
If you don't, right? Hey, humility is humility,
get that humble
man.
Bullshit out of this studio.
Hey, and that's another thing. If you were always a drummer, humility wins 9 times out of 10.
Unless you're from the hood, and then you got to tell everybody how dope you are just to get a shot.
But see, again, let's even play off of that, right?
No, finish your first.
Let's say you roll up. Well, it connects to what I'm going to say, and it's that. Okay, let's say you're that hot shot and you can play things fucking a million miles an hour. Well, then you get some huge gig, and then you've never been in front of 10,000 people before, and you're excited. Now there's adrenaline. You've never dealt with that level of adrenaline before. Now you're really going to play the shit fast.
Yep.
And you're going to play it too fast. And every night you build your muscle memory based on playing it fast, it's going to get faster and faster and faster. So
especially
if you haven't
midway through that tour when you discover cocaine.
Well, that I can imagine would cause a whole nother level of issues, right?
Dude, there's some Metallica videos of them playing Blackened.
Yeah.
On coke in the mid 80s. Like,
I can imagine
it's actually late 80s, but
I can imagine that's not going to do you any favors in terms of being,
or no, I'm sorry,
control
not
of your tempo.
I'm sorry for the people who hold me accountable to every fucking thing I say.
Sure.
I'm sorry, not Blackened.
But
battery. Battery.
I think that maybe that's the example maybe that's the world that I'm kind of explaining. If you don't have the muscle memory built on playing it slow, and then you get a gig where you find yourself in an adrenaline situation, you don't have the muscle memory to play it at proper tempo.
I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think what I'm getting at is like I equate playing sweeps on guitar to similar to like that drum and bass idea.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
The difference is it's actually easier for a lot of drummers, not just me, to learn the drum and bass part at speed, and then you're like, but it's just not right. Slow it down and figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's easier to initially learn it and build up the rhythm and the idea and the concept at speed. Right. Whereas as a guitar player, when you're like learning a sweep, it's the exact opposite. Like, it's almost impossible to learn how to sweep at speed. It's I've never ever actually, I think this is actually a great analogy because I don't think I've ever heard this happen. Not once in my entire ever has anybody learned how to sweep at speed. You have to learn the arpeggiated scale slowed down at first. Same thing with shuffling. If you teach somebody how to shuffle on drums from slow speed going up, yes, they're probably going to be better in the long run, but they're going to have this huge fucking long uphill battle to climb before they even sound competent at it.
Right.
Whereas dudes can learn how to start shuffling, which is kind of that same drum and bass idea,
right. But that's
at a way faster speed, and then slow. And that's what I'm getting at, though. Like, so
you got to put in the work
with sweeps. You start slow, speed it up, slow it back down, speed it up.
Right.
Because your end product is fast. I think from a drummer's, and I'm only speaking technically, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't think I've ever thought about it the way you're bringing it up. Is as a drummer, for me, it's easier to actually learn it really fast at speed, at tempo, slow it down, and then speed it. So it's literally the process.
Well, and that's your discovery session.
Maybe this is just the way my brain works as a multi-instrument musician, but I'd be surprised if the majority of people disagreed with that, because that's something that is true with me, but it's also the majority of the people that I've talked to as well. I never considered what you brought up, which is the satisfaction and the serotonin release, which makes sense because those are the things that make you want more.
Right.
And those are the things that make you keep going.
Well, exactly. And those are important too. I mean,
you're not getting satisfaction,
then you're not going to
keep going.
Right.
And then you're not going to get better.
Right. Especially if you're not disciplined to do to do those things, right? You're not going to want to keep doing it if it's not fun, right? You got to have, unless it's literally your job and you have to do it financially. Mm-hmm. But these are all things I think you learn as a kid too. If you're more an adult and your brain is mostly developed, you're going to have a really hard time adhering to these types of rules and things because it's just not fun and you don't have time to do it and you're not going to get the satisfaction. But as a kid, your brain is a little more malleable. You're going to be able to appreciate, well, someday this is going to pay off, and you're going to understand that. And then once you're an adult, you're like, oh shit, well, it's actually working. I don't know why it's working. It's coming naturally. Well, it's because you put in that time as a kid and your brain grew with those very strict mental techniques,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And I think you're right too, because even if you learn something as an adult, when it comes back to you, people refer to things like, oh, it's like riding a bike. It just comes back.
Yeah.
But there's still, in our industry, in our world, we say it's banging off the rust, right? Sure. Like, how fast can you bang off the rust? It's still all there. But to tie it back to what you started with, it's like, the more you play, the longer you play, the bigger that toolbox gets.
Yeah.
And then the more you stay active, and this is what's been my fucking horrible downfall to everything I've ever done, is I get pretty good at something, pretty fucking good, and then for some reason, sometimes totally justifiable, sometimes laziness, sometimes complacency, sometimes I switch instruments.
Yeah.
But sometimes, or I join a new band where I'm playing a new instrument, whatever, I set that new skill down, and it's still there. It will come back.
Yeah.
But it's not as easy to get through the cheat sheet when you're learning new music.
No, it's scenarios. Not. A great guy, Dave Ellich, drummer, Dave Ellich.
I know that name.
He's probably...
You probably talked about him last time on the podcast.
No, I didn't. He might...
Somebody, maybe Cloth brought him up or something. Somebody who's obsessed with drummers must have brought him up.
He's got to be the dude leading. Like he teaches the pros, right?
Oh,
like
no shit.
He's the guru right now. He just put out a master class through Vic Firth. Vic Firth just started doing what's called like behind the sleeve or some drumstick term or something cheesy keyword thing or whatever.
Some drum pun.
Yeah, exactly. But
a prun.
Yeah. The way he teaches, and you're going to love this shit, dude. Honestly, I'll send it to you. But he kind of explained it the way I naturally discovered, what I was doing wrong and or what I think I kind of have been doing more and more as I grew older.
Like even shit you just stumbled on.
Yeah, and the only drum lessons...
He's bringing validity to these ideas, like...
Yes, absolutely.
Whether they were right or wrong, he's pointing these, like, real world good and bad habits
and
out.
A lot of it was... It had nothing... most of it had nothing to do with actually playing the drums. It was things like... So there's this thing, and it gets almost kind of like... It has a tendency to feel a little like scammy, culty, but
churchy?
There's this thing called...
That's what I call churchy.
Yeah, but it's very true.
Or culty.
It's very true, and I had never actually... I never knew there was actually a term for it, but it's called the Alexander technique, I think. And all it is your posture. All it is your physical, skeletal approach to really anything whatsoever. And they talk about, and specifically Dave, he explains, like, look at a toddler when they learn how to walk. They're just naturally walking. Their spine is working in a certain way. They hold themselves, their weight in a certain way. The older we get, the more we're inflicted with stressors, the more we're inflicted with pains and these things. And that changes our posture. That changes and the more your spine changes, that changes your view on the world. That changes, we're kind of getting heady here, but
no, this is fascinating
because the whole point of it, right?
That's the weirdest shit God, so cool, man. Okay, so that's what I've actually noticed the last 3 sessions I've done on drums.
Right.
Is like while I'm playing, all of a sudden I notice that my back, like how I'm sitting right now, my back is extremely square. I have good posture, even with my elbows on the table, and that kind of hunches your shoulders up.
Yeah.
I'm still like squared and straightforward. And I've noticed for some reason, and I think it's the throne, because I got a way nicer throne and it's like hydraulic and shit.
Sure.
The old one I had was kind of shitty, and it was kind of like in its position.
Yeah.
And because I vaguely remember this when I was gigging and I got that throne, I started throwing it away in the middle of a set. I remember this now, and I actually remembered this a few days ago, where I'd take that throne off and I'd get rid of it and I'd grab my shitty one and sit it down. And I'm starting to think that back then is what I was I was irritated and frustrated mid-set live.
Yeah.
But I think is what was frustrating me is I could feel my posture was off and it was fucking up my deal.
It is.
Whereas now, as I'm banging off the rust, I'm noticing my posture's off.
Yeah.
And I'm just now putting two and two together that that was, and I stole that from Pat Rulin, because when the first time I ever sat on drums, I saw Pat Rulin play drums in my old band Solace and Ashes, and he had like this perfect, like almost mechanical level of posture. And so I just kind of mimicked him, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And I got really good really fast.
It's a very simple concept, but
this is mind-blowing.
And this is where I can bring it back.
And it's called the Alexander
technique, and it's not specific to music. It's literally just it's a meditational concept. It's not specifically for music, but it applies, right? And
I think your baby walking analogy was perfect.
Right. Think about it. It makes a lot of sense, right? The older you get, the more stressors you're involved with. It hunches your back.
And it's
then
not about being tense either.
Well, it's actually exactly what it's about.
Well,
because you carry tension in your body in certain areas of it.
No. I mean, like having the good posture.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about like holding your body tense and firm.
No,
it's about
it's the opposite of that. Actually.
Right. Like when you're in good posture, your muscles are loose and relaxed.
So
whether
this
you're ice skating or learning how to walk, it doesn't matter.
But that whole thing ties back into what we were talking about learning things slowly, right? If you're not learning how to play something slowly, you're not teaching your body. Your right shoulder might have some tension in it that you're not even consciously aware of. Well, if you're playing something at speed that your body isn't ready to play at speed, and you have tension in your shoulder, what are you going to do? You're going to further put tension on it because you need to play it right.
Right.
Mentally, you're not satisfied with how you're playing it, so you're going to push harder, right? So again, I'm kind of tying why you need. Technically, you should be playing things slowly. You should be playing them slowly at proper posture with no tension in your body. That way, the more you speed it up to tempo, your body isn't creating more tension in order to pull it off, right? This is why it's important to do things slowly. Be aware, breathe, be aware. Oh, and this goes back to Dave Ellich's thing. He's using the Alexander technique as just kind of like a tool in his curriculum, we'll say.
Sure.
And another way that he starts is, before he even sits at the drums, he sits on like a meditational bench, and he just relaxes, closes his eyes, and he thinks about his body consciously. And he says, where is there tension in my body right now? Oh shit, I didn't even realize, like, my lower back is a little bit more tense than it should be.
Yep.
Let me let go of that a little bit. Okay, like a little more. Oh shit, like my right shoulder, there's some tension. Oh, I slept on my right shoulder a long time last night. It's probably jammed up. Let's loosen that up, right? And then as you kind of release all this tension, then you sit at the drum. Then you sit there with your proper posture and you get comfortable. As you warm up, your body isn't creating more tension. And then you're able to kind of do these things fluidly. And the more you kind of repetitiously put your brain through this exercise, the more you're able to keep yourself in check in times of adrenaline, right? So this has been
This makes sense.
There's been a natural progression for me most of my life, and to see people, I think a lot because of YouTube, they can learn from other people, not just find this out kind of too late. I think this is a big part of it.
I agree, and I hope people are kind of like listening to it the same way I am, because as I'm listening to you describe this, I'm literally able to take this information and apply it to my past when I had both successes and failures. Like, oh, when I was doing really well, I was doing all of these positive things that you just mentioned. When things were struggling, or I had a bad gig or something was off, these other things were there, and you can start drawing correlations that really start to make a lot of sense. I think that's pretty powerful, dude. I think that's extremely helpful for anybody, even if
anybody in any profession,
even if
archery,
if you're exactly
sports.
that, and if you're a musician right now listening who's maybe struggling in some other aspect like archery. Yeah. Like, okay, cool, you're good every time you get on the drums, but you're having these issues. This still applies to that.
Right.
I think it's powerful.
And I can apply it to, I don't play guitar, but I've been around enough guitarists where I've seen how they approach the instrument from the same aspect of learning things
Vodka
slowly.
has a similar effect. Sorry,
it does. It certainly does. Yeah, you got to take it slow and pay attention.
That's super fun.
What up?
I just want to make sure this fucking scene switcher's on. I think it's on. Everything should be fine. Yeah, it's active.
And I think I've seen guitar. Like, I used to watch Logan in the van on tour all the time in Dead to Fall, and watching him go from, every guitar player they're up here, right? They're all forearm, right? Yep. And then as they figure out technique, it's more wrist, it's more, thumb and finger, right? This is an example of,
depending on what you're doing, but yeah,
right.
It's the same thing with drums. Like, like a guy is all arms. Sorry, I'm trying not to hit shit. A guy's like, I'll use my left arm for the viewers. He's like all arm when he first starts off, and then he gets more efficient, and it's elbow down. Yep. And then when he hits the next level, it's pretty much wrist only.
It's that whipping motion,
and it's that same thing when I'm banging off the rust, bro. Like when the first day I jump on after taking a couple months off, I'm way too army. Yeah. And then sometimes, depending on where I'm at, man, sometimes I'll bang out a 20, 30 minute set because I don't want to pull anything, so I just start off easy, 20, 30 minutes. Sometimes, though, I'll take a breath, and right in that second set, I'm already more efficient. Sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4 days of those sessions. Right. Before all of a sudden, because that's what happened a couple weeks ago. All of a sudden, I was like, I just noticed that I was like, dude, I'm not moving my arms at all. This is everything is wrists. The only time my arms are moving is to get to a spot, not to hit a drum. And I got that, dude. I got that badass fucking snare crack back when you just know how to just fucking. It's like you're hitting a whip, and you know how to just. Dude, so you're just whack, and I just get this nasty crack out of my snare again, and I'm not bringing my arm way up here like I'm in fucking an 80s hair metal band. Right. Nah, man, I'm bringing that shit barely up. Bah! It's all wrist. It's so satisfying to make that journey again. Right. It's dude, it's...
Yeah, it's a weird reinvention of that stuff, because then, there's when you're playing big clubs, you're playing big arenas, you want to play to the people in the back, right? This isn't fun for people in the back. You want that big.
Right.
But the same rule applies.
Right. But you're not actually, when you do all this and bring it down with your big left arm to hit the snare drum for the listeners that aren't watching.
Yeah.
There's no energy being used there, because that whole sound is actually coming at the very end of the movement with only the wrist. Yeah. The rest of this is showboating.
Exactly.
Like literally. I agree with you 100%, dude.
Yeah.
And you yeah, dude, and you're right, because you'll go back and forth on those things. You start off playing way too hard, breaking sticks, breaking cymbals. You learn how to soften up. Then crowds are bored because you're not animated. So you learn how to bring up the animation without actually hitting the drums any harder. Yeah. But you're still using a lot of energy. Third level, like, that's when you're animated, putting on a great show, and you're efficient on your energy. So at the end of your 40 to 60 minute set, you can still throw down. Because you better be ending strong.
Right.
You better be ending strong. Like, I always tell this to local bands, too. Number one mistake you all make when you're brand new, and what I mean by brand new is, like, under 4 years of real live experience, none of you build your live sets right. Start strong and end strong. Put all your chill shit, put all your low key shit, put all your experimental shit right in the middle of your set.
Yeah, I agree.
Period. Because especially when you're new and you're like opening or playing second on a bill, because nobody's there at the beginning of your set. Why would you ever play a good song at the beginning? You know, if you're literally opening and you're playing to 50 people, but you know there's going to be 300 there at the end, backload your set. Put all your boring shit at front.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it.
You know?
Yeah. Also, who are you
that
playing
was totally
with?
off topic, but
no, that's another good
it was
thing
totally random.
I've been thinking about with Cobrazar. I mean, we just played 7th Street with fucking Bongzilla, you know, and it's like, okay, well,
I'm super sorry I missed that show, dude.
It happens. But you know, that whole thing was, you know, where I kind of used to think of set building was, you know, in the early days was like, well, what are we going to perform best? What's going to be satisfying to me personally? But also, like, who's in the crowd? Like, are we opening for somebody? What are those people probably going to want to hear? You know? So I think that's another pretty important thing.
And are you there to do
set.
a job? Or are you just playing a show? For example, did you just drop an album? Do you have a single on the radio?
Right.
Like, those things will fuck with you too, because you got to start. You're running a business, man, and like I think what you just said super important. Because what do they want to hear? Because they're the ones there that night. Because your job is basically that show is advertising.
Right.
You're trying to turn new people onto your band. Probably not a great idea. If you're it could be a great idea if you're opening for somebody like a Metallica, maybe not literally Metallica, but then you go out and you play an acoustic deal. You could become Days of the New.
Right.
And that's exactly why it was dope and everybody was into it.
Yeah.
Or it could completely backfire on you. But that needs to be part of that calculation. Like, the difference is that was Days of the New. That's all they did. They didn't suddenly set down that and then pick up electric shit. No, that was their sound, and that's why they went on tour with Metallica. Like,
man.
Same thing with Monster Magnet. You know what I mean? They didn't sound like Metallica.
You got a goal in mind, and you got
to purpose.
Got to set something up to achieve that goal. And
I think it's Larry and his Flask. They're like a bluegrass band.
Oh, crazy!
Upright bass, fucking dude. Live, they throw down.
Very cool.
Like the craziest punk or metalcore band. Remember when guys were spinning guitars and jumping off shit?
Yeah.
That's them, but as like a bluegrass band. It's amazing. They opened for fucking Foxy Shazam. It works when it's like that, though.
Right.
Is what you're talking about, though, is when you're building a set and you have 3 hours worth of music, you're opening for Bongzilla, and you play music that nobody in that crowd wants to hear when you have other music that might actually appeal to them.
Right. Yeah.
That's
you
what
want
you're
to see
talking
it?
about.
I just posted it today, actually. You want to play something?
We might be able to pull it up. What's the...
Okay. Just go to the...
It gets sketchy when we do it this way.
It's live, so you shouldn't get...
It gets super sketchy when we do it this way, though.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to use the bathroom. Search YouTube Cobrazar.
Actually, you know what? Just send me the link.
Okay.
Just text me the link. I'm going to send it to myself. It'll be so much easier that way. All right. Hey, listen, guys. I appreciate you guys jumping into chat and hanging out with us. We're having a good old time. If you guys got questions, you want to fucking throw something in here, hit it up now. I don't do mid-roll ad reads, so I'm not going to like suddenly bust into a commercial. I made that promise at the beginning of the podcast, and I'm going to hold that promise forever. I don't do mid-roll ad reads. You're never going to hear me stop a conversation and read an ad. I don't do that shit. But if you're here and you haven't already, hit like, subscribe. Helps the channel a ton. Looks like there is a few of you guys in here. Oh, maybe we haven't been going long enough for some of you guys to comment. Maybe that's what it is. Because I had to switch it up, guys. There was too many random new people coming in here and making like crazy amounts of comments, taking over the chat. Some people would come in and say some just crazy hateful shit and then bounce out. So we had to quit doing all that. So now you got to be a subscriber to the channel for like, I think I put it at like a half hour or something like that in order to comment. And I'm not willing to turn that off. I apologize. But yeah, Tim will be back any second here. He's just taking a leak, and he's going to send me that link, and then we're going to queue up some music here. He didn't send it to me in advance because we weren't able to. Tim wasn't 100% certain he was even going to be able to play this. A lot of times guys will send me these links beforehand. Let me see if I can look it up. I might be able to save some time here. But yeah, throw your guys questions in chat. Hit subscribe, like, helps the channel a ton. We are still on that grind to 1,000 subs so we can monetize directly through YouTube. And subscribing is free, so there's that. What channel did you say it was on, Tim? Oh, did you? I'm just going to steal this code out of here because it's easier in this setup to do it this way. No, you're fine. I was explaining
one
to
Coors
them.
Light over the line.
No, I was explaining to him while you were gone. I was explaining to him we weren't sure if we were going to be able to play any of this, which is why I didn't get it in advance because we weren't 100% certain.
Oh, so yeah, we were going to premiere. We do actually have that was at that performance video I was telling you about a couple weeks ago.
One.
Yep. We do actually have like.
Oh, it's not this one.
No, this is something. This is kind of some bootleg shit I just put together this week from the 7th Street show we just played.
That's funny.
But we do actually have like a produced performance video, the single we just put out. But we're trying to be really creative in how we share this content as we make show announcements and stuff like that. And obviously booking shows right now is kind of madness. You know, people are, oh yeah, it's going to be this date. And then, oh shit, somebody cancels because somebody gets COVID or something. And then, you know, it's just absolute madness. So anchoring your content up to this stuff is just really hard. Yeah, that second one down. Yeah, I just posted this afternoon. So I filmed the whole show. It's pretty bootleg, but you know, yeah, it's fun. This was great to get back on the stage, man.
Can't play it that way. It's gonna get fucky. Are we gonna code it? So this was recently at 7th Street Entry?
Yeah, August 29th. So First Avenue hit us up. We had kind of been in contact with them. The band even was in contact with them, trying to actually play with Bongzilla years ago before I wasn't even in the band. And we had hit them up, you know, more recently to book something, and all of a sudden it was a Thursday, and they're like, hey, can you play on Sunday? And thankfully we had just been preparing to play a show, assuming it was going to be random. And yeah, basically 48 hours notice. They're like, yeah, show's almost sold out. You want to play? Boom, we're ready to go. Let's do it. So it was good. I wish I would have had more time to like figure out, you know, how to film it and actually produce the live production of it, because I love doing that stuff. I love being able to produce live shows and get the multi-track off the board and everything else. But
that's one thing I want to do. That's part of the reason I bought this, is because we want to start doing something like that. Not only like a chill little session down here, you know, with the room behind me. We got that all cleared out and cleaned up now. Last time you were here was a disaster. Now my kit's over there. I got extra monitors and shit. It's really nice. It's fucking nice.
Yeah, you'll have to show me what you got going on after the show.
And we want to do like little acoustics shit over there. But we also want to do like an actual live podcast with bands at a fucking venue.
Be awesome.
And I want to do like dope bands that can fucking draw somewhere like the Caboose.
Yeah.
Like somewhere dope.
Amsterdam or something like that.
Somewhere big, somewhere that we can pack 1,500 people into.
Yeah.
Somewhere where they have like cool elevated places where we could actually set up a podcast spot separate from the stage.
Yeah.
And I've got a crew of dudes that can definitely pull it off. We just got to get the right build together. We got to get a venue that sees the vision and understands what we're trying to do. And that's really been the hardest part, is finding the right venue to do it at. Because some guys want to do it at a small venue. I don't really care what size of the venue it is, as long as there's a logical place that we can do the podcast side of things from.
I would hit up the dudes at First Avenue, dude. Like, and I don't mean First Avenue as the club. I mean because of the business operation they have over there. I mean, First Avenue is First Avenue, 7th Street, Fine Line, Palace Theater. I mean, that's one operation. You know, they're kind of starting to own the entire
I don't really
Twin
have an
Cities.
in with those dudes, though.
You'd be surprised how open they are to just random people hitting them up with business opportunities. I mean, they were very responsive with just kind of randomly hitting them up. I mean, we hit them up. We were trying to book a show a year ago. Like, let us know when you're booking shows again. We would love to book this lineup. And within a week or two, they were like, oh, we love those bands. You know, and they're very, I think they have, as a club, I think they're doing really cool stuff almost from like a label perspective. Like they're almost looking at the Twin Cities as there's a bunch of talent, local talent, but also there's a lot of touring acts that come through, and we could kind of be the record label or the linchpin that kind of keeps the Twin Cities rolling.
So it sounds like what you're saying is the gatekeepers are gone, because they used to be just impossible. Like you could not play First Ave unless you knew the right people at First Ave.
I think that
was true
changed.
for 7th Street as well. I still might never get in there though, because I openly talk shit about my old lead singer John Diley on a regular basis on this podcast, because he's a piece of shit. He's a fucking piece of shit. And he's really tight friends with somebody.
Well,
he's really
tight. Fucking that chicken.
He's really tight with some of the people at First. I ain't selling out my principles. I'm not going to pretend John Diley's not a piece of shit just to get in with some people at the club. Hell no. Fuck that. I ain't burning bridges, but I also ain't going to spend any time constructing a bridge that John Diley's going to go blow up later down the road anyways. Like, that's fuck that shit. Hey, will you swap this one? Because this one's a little warm. All right, I got this tune. Let's cue it up. Yeah. Baby. All right, this should work. This should work. Okay, now it's clearly obvious that I'm very insecure about this working. You ready?
This is fairly bootleg. You know, it's
this is bootleg.
It's a internal bootleg.
We'll get to all that, Claude.
Yeah,
we'll get to that.
Fire it up, baby.
This is fairly bootleg, so it may not sound or even look good. But I know for a fact you boys are dope.
Thank you.
Like, man. Especially live. You guys sound fine on record.
Yeah.
But like you guys are legitimately pros.
Thank you.
I mean, fuck, dude, it's not just you either. Tim was fucking signed by fucking Prosthetic Records.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, you guys are all legitimate pros, so
it's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, kind of fucking, the Twin Cities wash-ups,
Wash-ups. Fucking it's more false humility. Jesus Christ. I love you, man. All right, here we go. It takes a second. Oh, that fucker. There we go.
I have to do that.
How is everybody? Fuck that shit. Let me hear it. How the fuck is everybody in the entry tonight? There we go. We are Cobras are. We've been working on some new stuff. I don't know if anyone here even knows who the fuck we are. If you don't, now you do. Yeah. And we're happy to be here. Play for fucking Bongzilla. Let's give it up for those guys. Bongzilla. Yeah. Some old school shit. Fucking listen to those guys forever. Alright. I'll keep it rolling. This is Faith in Failure. It's for all the people that love sludgy, fucking dirty fucking music out there. This is all for you. Alright?
Yeah.
Best place to put your money is in the kitchen. No, that shit's dope, dude. That shit's super good, man.
Yeah, it felt good.
I mean, it sounds like shit. Let's not bullshit anybody.
It does. Compared to what I wanted it to sound like, it sounds like shit. But
you know who you got to hit up? You got to hit up Stephen Lane.
Okay, he's been on the show before.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lead singer for Reaping Asmodea, does all of their.
Oh, of course.
Does all of their videos. So all their like concept videos.
Yeah.
He does all those.
Yeah.
He's fucking phenomenal, and he and I have been talking about doing live shit together, and he already has the ability to do most of it on his own. Yeah. I'm trying to just kind of like collaborate with him and bring him into some of my projects. He doesn't really have a use for me, but I think my board is bigger than him. Maybe not. He might have the same exact
Schwartz
thing.
is as big as mine.
But yeah, you should talk to him, dude, because he's really, really good. I'm pretty sure his rates are still reasonable. They won't be for long because he's that dope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think I drove by the rehearsal space on the way here, and I was like, fuck, I gotta hit him up and just go kick it, because I go really far back with Dan, with the Dead Hands stuff, and we used to first real band I joined was Dead Hands, and we used to play with his old band, and love those dudes. Brought those dudes out when he was playing for Dead Hands. I was in Dead to Fall. Brought them on tours and stuff, and
So for people that don't know, I don't want to do the whole story. I'm going to do a quick breakdown. If you guys really want to know, go back and watch the last podcast. It was like almost 6 hours long. It was a great podcast.
Yeah, we went ham.
But so you started off drumming for a bunch of bands locally, and then you kind of broke when you hit Dead to Fall, which parlayed into like 4-Letter Lie and some other shit.
Yep.
But now what you've got going, and you guys did huge tours. I mean, we played those videos on the last podcasts. Some of those videos were literally some of the first viral music videos, like Chum Fiesta.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was fun.
And Major Rager.
Yep.
And we tell the story about how we ended up meeting, which leads us to a great segue, which is what you got going on now.
Mm-hmm.
So how we met was, as a quick recap, your guitar player in Kimono and singer, Jeff, repaired giant shear machines and came to my grandpa's shop where I happened to be working. And Major Rager is a name of one of your songs, and it was literally a viral music video back in the day, before viral things were a standard,
right?
This is before YouTube, even literally before YouTube. This was only existing on like Facebook and MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace was huge. Yeah,
I'm joking with this old boomer coworker of mine at the day job about I'm gonna have a Major Rager this weekend. And he kept going, he finally goes, what the fuck does Major Rager mean? I explain it to him. Jeff pops up from behind because I explained it's this old fucking band from here in Chicago. And Jeff stands up and he goes, are you talking about Dead to Fall? I say, sure as shit I am. You must be a local music fan. And he goes, no, the drummer of that band's like my best friend.
Yeah, yeah.
And at that time, him and I exchange information, and he tells me about this band you guys are now releasing. It's called Kimono. You guys have been releasing shit, and you guys have been getting some great response, especially overseas.
Yeah.
So tell people about Kimono and describe it to people that don't know.
Yeah. So,
and of course, plug it where they can go listen to it.
Sure. Yeah. So Kimono, it's a funny story, really. Like, I actually moved to Minnesota a week before my junior year. In high school, and actually that's where I met Jeff. I ended up being in like music classes with him in the high school that I moved to, and I moved there being in utter prog rock, just like horror, for the lack of a better word. And that's older stuff. Like, I don't think a lot of people were really into that old 70s prog stuff, especially early 2000s. And I think I was kind of irritating people with it, old Rush stuff, old Yes stuff. And then, fast forward to last year, basically what ended up happening through Jeff was, Jeff ended up.
Oh, that's right. Because when I met him, it was Elehu and Efe.
Exactly.
It wasn't Kimono.
Right.
It was a different group called Elehu and Efe.
Yep.
That's right.
And Jeff kind of split off from that, and he was like, you know what? I'm really big into vintage gear now. He flips vintage gear, basically. Old PA, old speakers, old record players, amps. Just the whole, vintage gear thing. And basically what ended up happening was his old childhood neighbor, the guy had a bunch of old guitars in his basement, and he was like, look, if you can help me sell these, I'll give you a cut. And sorry if I'm butchering the story, Jeff, but basically what happened was
if Jeff thinks you're butchering the story, he should subscribe for 30 minutes and then comment in the YouTube section.
Right. So basically what happened was Jeff knew
what had happened was
the guy that's my
sorry
template.
Dude. That's an old inside joke. Sorry.
Nice.
Sorry, man.
No,
it's me and like 13 people from high school get that joke. I'm sorry, dude.
It's good.
No one gets that.
So what happened was
what had happened
Jeff knew the guy at the Terrarium recording studios, kind of off close to university up there. And the guy was like, dude, I need this specific guitar from you. I'll trade you studio time for this guitar. This was last year. And essentially what happened was Jeff had a weekend of free studio time, and he was like, okay, Tim and then Chad, who was the bass player in Dead to Fall, he hit us up and he's like, we got free studio time. We have to literally come up with a project to use this free studio time.
Get the fuck out.
No joke, dude.
That's amazing.
It's literally what happened.
That's so funny.
And so, Jeff being into all this old vintage gear, he just started writing a lot of that old kind of music. He had been into this stuff, old Camel, old Yes.
Yeah, it's very like psychedelic.
Yeah.
Even in the imagery and the way you guys dress and take photos and shoot videos.
It's very much a
you're
timepiece.
Leaning super heavy into like, basically, I think the dumbest way we could describe it is Pink Floyd.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, honestly.
We're literally cosplaying 70s era prog bands.
Right.
Today.
And to say it in one band, more than Pink Floyd. I mean, you're not trying to be Pink Floyd, but it's that vibe.
Yeah, it's definitely in there.
Leading into the psychedelic, not only like accepting it, but like really leaning into it. Like some of those videos, it's like, I want to know if you guys were on mushrooms while you were shooting the video. That's what I want to know.
No, I think we just have an appreciation for that stuff. Specifically, and maybe some old lessons learned, which now turn. I mean, I'm wearing a fucking King Crimson shirt right now, but yeah, basically we had this studio time, and Jeff was like, "Look, I've been writing these old prog style tunes," and they were like, "Tim, we know you're a huge prog nerd. Let's do it." And I've never played in a like attempted professional capacity that old school type of prog music. So basically what happened was Chad was in town. They mostly wrote those songs. They presented them to me, and then basically within a month we put them together because Terrarium was kind of pressuring us like, look, I'm giving you studio time. We don't even know if the studio is going to last through COVID. So they sent me the files early October. We were in the studio
and traded
mid-November.
A guitar for the studio time.
Yeah. So we showed up, recorded it.
What kind of guitar?
Somebody's
going to want to know.
Man.
Because somebody's going, okay, what do I got?
Well, I think
what can I trade for free studio time?
Oh, God, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I think it was an old Fender Stratocaster of some kind. Sorry, I probably
pre-CBS
got that wrong.
1985.
I got a picture of it. It's in the archives. Again, I play the drums. I don't play guitar. But
it's all good. It's all good. I had to ask though. Somebody was going to kill me if I didn't ask that question.
Of course,
somebody would eat me alive.
So we recorded these songs, and then Chad, who, out in LA, he runs a little label of his own, and he does a lot of projects out there, and he just kind of took the reins with it. How do we promote this? How do we put it out? How do we do it and make it look professional? And then, recorded the album, got the artwork done. We spent some time shopping it around, seeing if people were interested.
You're saying the labels?
Yeah.
Just in case anybody's confused.
Right. Prog labels, specifically. And that's some pretty heady stuff. They're not going to just take anybody off the street.
And I'm guessing you got a big walloping no on your first round.
Absolutely.
Just because people do listen to this and relate and think like, oh, maybe I should try that.
Yeah.
Yeah, try it.
Yeah,
but be prepared for rejection. That's why I asked that. Because you're shopping labels. Nobody knows who you are. Even with the equity you have coming from your old shit, nobody gives a fuck.
Right. Well, especially when you come out of left field with something so completely different from, you're hitting a completely different audience.
Yeah, you pulled like a Monty Python.
Yeah, pretty much.
For something completely different.
Exactly. But, I think, and to that note, I think you kind of do two things at once, right? You have an album ready, you make a music video, you do all these things DIY, and you should be preparing to self-release, but at the same time shop it, right? And
yeah, because you never know who's going to be like, oh, this is going to hit.
And then the moment you run out of those
some
people,
young, up-and-coming, go-getter A&R intern,
right,
who's looking to make his career off discovering the next, you could be that band.
You could, but I think what ends up happening is you get all the no's. You get all the no's, and then you're like, all right, well, fuck you. We're ready to do it ourselves.
Exactly.
And then you show them. You show them through example. And then
99% of the time, that's how you're going to succeed in this industry.
Yeah.
Is don't ask, tell.
Yeah.
Like show them. Don't ask. Don't ask if they. Don't ask if you're good enough. Don't ask if you're worth investing in. Show them. Prove it. Like run a good business model. Like draw fans. Put out good records. Make that shit go hot in Europe with zero fucking. So talk about that, man. So you guys put this shit out. You shop it around. You're doing this deal, and now it's out there, and you're getting some big, good, positive response across the pond.
Yeah,
as they say,
which was kind of unforeseen. Other than the fact that I think we hit up a lot of these labels, and a lot of them are overseas. But one of the main things I think that I did was I did Facebook advertising for a lot of the main, we rolled out singles at a time.
Do me a favor. Pull that mic towards me.
Yeah.
And then point it down towards you. There you go. Okay. Perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah. I did some Facebook advertising, and I strategically only targeted the UK age 55 plus fans of Yes, Camel, Rush, King Crimson. And the ads only went out to those people.
Now you know what you need to do? Run another one for 24 and under. Because you will be fucking blown away.
I don't know about that band.
I swear to God. No, I swear to God. Here's why.
Yeah, maybe now.
My little brother is 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
The boys from Stormbreaker are, the bass player's 19. I think the oldest member of sorry, Chris. I think you're over 30. The rest of the dudes, like the oldest one's like 22.
Nice, yeah.
They're into that shit. Like really into that shit. You think young kids are only into electronics and your market is strictly for, guys our age and way older? No, believe it or not. The only people who don't give a fuck about your band are people like from 25 to our age. It's a very small bracket that actually give a shit. You know what I mean? About Nicki Minaj and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
No, dude, I'm telling you, there's a huge swath of kids. Look at Greta Van Fleet, dude. Greta Van Fleet didn't blow up from 55 plus audiences. But 55 plus audiences still kind of like them.
Yeah.
They feel like they got their band back.
It's true. There's a reason a lot of those bands play a lot of the big festivals and stuff. Yeah.
So just for transparency, when you targeted those Facebook and Google campaigns for the UK 55, how much did you spend on that campaign?
It would be $10 to $20 per post.
Okay, which is not a lot.
It's really nothing.
And if people are going, per post, listen, man.
And we only did that like 3 posts. We
do
no more than $100.
We dropped back in the day $200 at Kinko's on a regular basis for fucking black and white flyers on bright pink or neon green fucking paper to promote a local show. Don't tell me $20 I'm sick of hearing these excuses, man. I'm sick of hearing this shit. So you guys got a great response for this. So now turn around. All I'm saying is, okay, drop another hundo then.
Yeah.
And just trust me and try this experiment. It may not work in the UK, but definitely in the United States, there's an entire market for 24 and under that are deep diving classic rock, experimental rock, Pink Floyd, Jimi Hendrix, Rush, all the way through glam metal, dude.
Right.
And Greta Van Fleet is doing it. So there's already a path for you.
Yeah. And I think part of we really
try it. I just want to see what try it and report back, because I want to know, because we're fucking around with ideas like this too. Not for the podcast yet, because we're not making enough money. We're not influxing any more capital into the podcast.
Right.
This has got to be more organic going forward. Otherwise, I'm going to spend $30,000 and never make a dime. That's how you run a bad business, right? But I also am starting a band. I also am, auditioning for a couple other projects. I also got some other shit I'm working on, and I'm very curious how these things work in a real world environment. Because we can look at analytics, we can hire an ad agency. They're going to fill us full of a bunch of bullshit. One of the things that's great about this podcast is these are real motherfuckers currently in it, on the streets, doing it at all levels. Some of y'all are fucking super pros, and some of y'all, you'd be lucky to open a local show, but you've all been on the podcast because you're part of the industry, and I see talent.
Yeah,
period.
Well,
so I'm curious about these things, and I want other people to understand how realistic this stuff is to attain, because believe it or not, it's not a competition. If there's a death metal band that suddenly hears the wisdom in your words, and he spends the exact same amount of money in the exact same area on whether it's the exact same demographic or not, you're not competing for listeners there.
Right. Well, and that's
what makes this business beautiful.
Be, the next album, that'll be a strategy that we use, right? But I think coming out of the gates, I think it was important to get the respect and the recognition from those older folks in the UK, because this is where I'm surprised at the reaction we got. Now we got people overseas reviewing the album. They're coming to us asking for content. They're coming to us reviewing it. We just did an interview in in fucking Spanish, or in other languages. A review came out of Spain. It's a completely different language, but again, it's because we targeted those people first.
I have two listeners that speak fluent Spanish. If they wanted to go check out that interview, and we do have international listeners across the globe where they obviously speak English because they listen to the podcast, but it's not their first language. I mean, we've got 1,500 subscribers across the globe.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That aren't even on YouTube.
Which is why this is perfect,
So
because,
where can people go to find these interviews and this other stuff?
Just Google Kimono, what is it? Yeah, KMONO. There's a couple other ones spelled kind of differently. Kimono Band. It'll be pretty obvious.
Kimono Band, I think, is the best SEO search, because that's kind of your field too. Because if you just type in Kimono, there's a lot.
Oh yeah,
I think Kimono Band. You guys
have
I think you guys have done a good job though of grabbing Kimono Band.
Yeah,
that seems to have kind of worked. Yeah, because if I search Kimono Band, I get it.
Yeah,
top searches.
And
right
we've
there.
done a pretty good job of like, when the reviews or the interviews come out, we repost them to our channels and stuff. So, I mean, you can even literally just Google it and find, our Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, mainly Facebook and Twitter. It's hard to put that kind of stuff on Instagram, but they should be in the feed, basically, if you find the band photo or the band pages. So yeah, there's an interview about to come out, which was super exciting, because I've been fairly passive about it. It's one of those things with the time that I have, and doing a project like that, it's very special. You really want to put a lot of time into it. But we did this interview in the way.
So what drew you in? I don't want to cut you off, but I'm curious about that, because we've been hitting on this theme of priorities, and so what drew you in? Because I know you love Jeff. You guys are boys. You're best friends, but. What drew you in? Because we've all got best friends, but that doesn't mean we're gonna fucking sacrifice. You know what I mean? It's like,
for sure.
Yeah, I got a best friend, but that doesn't mean because I run a fucking a contracting company remodeling kitchens that I'm just gonna let's start a side company remodeling kitchens together because you're my best friend.
Right.
What drew you in to this project? Not just Jeff, because that's I feel like that's bad podcasting. It's so obvious. He's gonna come on, hopefully. you guys can discuss your beautiful friendship and all that shit. I don't want to do that. That's weird.
No,
But
it's much more than that.
Plus, you already had that other project, Elihu and Efe.
Yep.
So the bond is there. But what was it about Kimono that drew you in? It sounds like the idea started from this free studio time, but what's happening now seems way cooler than that. Way cooler than a throwaway idea.
Yeah, it's a couple things. Mainly from a personal perspective, it's the band I've always wanted to do, right?
No shit.
It's the
Even
band
with
I
all the
grew
brutal
up
metal.
No, I was gonna grow up being in a band like Rush.
Dope.
That was why I ended up playing in metal bands. Metal bands were just the way to get out of town. So that's a part of it, right? That was just as a personally selfish situation. It's the type of band I've always dreamt of doing. Well, that's one thing, right? But the fact that I had already been doing Elihu and Hefe with Jeff, and that had worked very well. I already had worked with him on a bunch of stuff. Also, the fact that Chad was the other person involved. I've known Chad just as long. We toured together. We produced multiple albums together. So the three of us had already worked together on a lot of projects. So we knew there was going to be no friction. Again, you got to think. They sent me the files early October, and we were recording them a month later, right? So there was already this understanding that this was going to be a very frictionless, easy project. You know, it wasn't going to require all these, opinions, and it's just, here it is. Do what you do best. I trust you. I love you. Here it is. It worked great. So I think it was kind of mainly those two things. It's something I've always wanted to do, and I've already worked with these guys under multiple other circumstances, and I knew how the workflow was going to go. So I think that's why it happened.
So that does relate directly to the project.
Yeah.
Because of the history there.
Right. And I think that relates to prog
on the
bands
music
in
side,
general.
though? But what about on the music side, so we can take away the relationship just for the sake of
right,
dissecting, or if you didn't know these guys,
right,
and it's just music based, it was because that's kind of your dream band. I mean, you wanted to be in a psychedelic prog band your whole life. Yeah,
pretty much. I mean, that's what I grew up playing. Those are the first records I grew up playing.
Do you think everyone knows that about you?
I think people that I sort of grew up with. I don't think, maybe not a lot of the metal people. I think,
because I'm surprised to hear that.
But I think if you go back and listen to what I've done with metal bands, it would be pretty obvious having known that first. My style of playing drums, my compositions, my fill styles, my toolbox of fills. I mean, I'm straight ripping off old Neil Peart, fills and styles of playing. I mean, it's absolutely, and that's a tall fucking order to say, obviously. I mean, especially the dude's fucking dead now. It's kind of harsh to say, but
seems like everybody's dead now, dude. It's been a rough couple of years.
All right,
dude.
Well,
Norm Macdonald.
Yeah,
we have that conversation on this podcast all the time about let's build the Mount Rushmore of whatever. Let's do drummers. Let's do comedians. Because a lot of musicians, just like there's these three things that happen. You're either a musician, an athlete, or a comedian, and you want to do one of the other things. But this is what you're good at, but you want to do that. Like, there's so many athletes that want to be rappers or musicians.
Yeah.
Most musicians want to be athletes. Like, it's very rare that I meet a musician that's like, I hate sports.
Yeah.
It's like, good thing you're a musician so we can still relate. But
right.
But then usually they're in love with comedy. It's like a 2 out of the 3 thing.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
We joke about that all the time, and I specifically know for a fact, I always forget to argue that Norm Macdonald should be on a Mount Rushmore of comedy. I mean, he was that
I agree,
good, dude.
man.
Neil Peart needs to be on a Mount Rushmore of drumming. And these are names that constantly get forgotten about because we're fans of other guys and they constantly get, but Neil Peart gets his respect, Norm Macdonald gets, but dude, it's been a rough couple of years, man.
It has.
Seems like everybody's dead now.
It's those generations, man. They just, it's kind of a dying breed of things. So, well, yeah, no, it was not just having worked together with those guys, but also working with Chad over the years too. Chad is, again, Chad Dead to Fall. He's out in LA.
What did he play in Dead to Fall?
He was a bass player.
The guy in the purple?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, you got to get him on my podcast. He's my favorite
God.
Dead to Fall member.
You would love this dude.
Dude, I know I would love this dude. We talked about this on the last podcast. In that Dead to Fall video in Major Rager, when shit goes down and he just stands there like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to be that guy's best friend.
Right.
Like that was immediately I was like, that guy's awesome. And he's wearing all purple. He's wearing a purple t-shirt.
Was this
he's
thing.
wearing
He'd wear that every night on tour. Yeah.
I think this is the word my mom was always talking about back in the day when she would try to describe quarterbacks. And I'm like, that's not what moxie is. Chad has moxie.
He does.
Chad
Absolutely.
has moxie.
Well, you know.
That I think that is the exact proper description of
because it's a content machine.
It's
dude.
not just confidence. It's something different. It's a vibe. It's an energy, and it's not like The Rock or Mark Wahlberg, right? It's not that.
Right.
It's something different.
And that was a big part about why another thing, maybe to add a third thing to the kimono deal, because I knew Chad was going to. We filmed a music video a week later.
Dude, you gotta get
filmed
Chad
all
and
sorts
Jeff
of stuff
on my podcast.
So that was another reason I knew, because it was going to be
I
seen
will
by
get
people.
Cloth, an ex-Marine sniper, to suck your dick if you get both Jeff and Chad on my podcast.
Well, we got to get Chad here from LA.
I will figure out a way to get Cloth to suck your dick if you get Chad and Jeff on my podcast.
Let's
See,
play
that's
it.
like an
Here,
NBA three-way trade. It's like an NBA three-way trade. We all get something out of this. Wait, what does Cloth get out of this? It's a terrible, terrible deal. I get something out of it. You get a blowjob.
Here, play this top one.
A video?
Yeah, this is the
Kimono Witch Warlock. Okay.
This is the main single.
Let me look this up.
Chad produced, filmed, did this whole video. There's another buddy of ours, Jay Ness, who is a filmographer that's worked with Chad over the years. But this is one of the main singles from that album, and Chad produced that too.
It was like witch as in witches and warlocks, right?
Well, it's both. It's a pun.
No, but how it's spelled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's, witches, but also witch of the warlocks, right?
No, not kimono. Oh my god. Oh, I misspelt it. That's why. It's so funny, dude. We have so many people popping in and out of this thing. Oh yeah, I wanted to save that because I want to talk about the comparison of gear between your projects instead of just going like, oh, what kick do you play? Because I feel like for a lot of people that's just, it's a little inside baseball, but I think we can talk about the artistic expression between the bands and the way you change kits. I think that'll be a little bit more intriguing for people. Why can't I find this fucking... This is stupid. This is great podcast. This is why we need a producer, guys. This is why we need more Patreons. We need more subscribers to do these things. Help out. If you think this is bullshit and this podcast is boring, it'd be a lot easier if I was able to just interview and hang out and talk to people. We had a producer who could help do these things. They could queue these things up. They could loop these things up. Podcast would look better. It'd sound better. It'd be better. Everything would be better. All you got to do is hit subscribe. It's free. You just do that. You just hit the little red button on YouTube. You just hit subscribe. You do that. It's free. That helps. And then if you really want to be a baller, go join the Patreon. Go join the Patreon. Do it. Okay. Kimono Witch Warlock. I'm about to go back to the way I used to do this and just say, fucking put the link in the description and let them fucking look it up on their own, but this shit is not coming up, dude. Did I spell it wrong again? Oh, yeah. See, I was trying to go witch like witches and Warlock.
There's technically two. So that one's there's like a more official music video, and then there's more of us in the studio recording another song.
Let's do the official one.
Yeah.
It's 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are going to be in
Do up
for
some
a
time.
fucking... Oh, I'm taking a long piss.
Hope you got some.
You got 8 whole minutes to trip as hard as you can. All right, hold on.
So again, this is another aspect to Chad, and why I wanted to work with these guys. Yeah, this is why I wanted to work with these guys, because he's able to create all this content, and he's very fucking good at it, So, yeah, love the dudes. Find some people that can make good music, make great content, and do it quickly without any friction.
So not me.
Well, you're more of a bulldozer, You just an unstoppable force,
Well, I gotta be, because I don't have any fucking momentum.
Well, you got plenty of momentum.
No, it's like inertia. It's like it's like a bulldozer, right? Like
Yeah.
like those things don't move fast,
Right.
right? They gotta build up that inertia. They gotta build up that initial momentum. No,
They do.
dude.
They do.
Because, I don't cause friction, but I don't have the ability to turn that shit around quickly. That's why I'm like, so not me, right? Because,
Well,
I got to outsource everything because I'm
I think
not
you're
an
doing
expert.
a good job with the streaming end of it, though. I think
This
I don't
took
know.
a year to figure out, bro.
Personally, I almost think it's like you might almost be moving backwards, trying to. I don't know.
If you would have sent me these links up front, it'd be a different story.
Sure. Wow.
I promise.
We're in no rush.
I
We got
promise.
another 6-hour run tonight, right?
Yeah. The reason yeah.
Kidding.
Yeah. No, here's the thing. The reason I do it this way is because it's just less of a load on my computer. When I try to actually share this screen, it's just such a draw.
That makes sense.
So I had to switch things up. You're right. Like it was easier to just do it the old way, but it was not as good of an experience for the viewer and the listener. And that's why we do this.
Right.
Like,
I
I love hanging
that's-
out with you and doing this shit.
Yeah.
But the reason we do it on the internet is for them, not for us.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. All those little nuances of streaming, and I would just keep going that direction. I mean, you hire other people to make premium content that's not live. I mean, you're going to that's just my opinion.
I don't think I called you a jarhead, Cloth. Maybe you did. Maybe you did.
Let me get this dude's question in first.
I think I said
with the kick drum beater thing.
No, we're gonna save that for later.
Okay.
Because I want to talk to you about the comparison of how you switch up your drum sounds between these
Sure.
projects instead of just going straight. Well, I don't
Gotcha.
want to go. I don't want to go too inside baseball. I want to keep it like
No, that makes sense.
something that makes
that's
sense
a
for everybody to
That's
listen
a whole
to.
fucking conversation. I got 5 different kick drum.
I
beaters, so.
saw your question. And I'm holding that like the ace
Sorry,
up my
man.
sleeve for later
We'll
because I
get to
actually
it.
had Cloth is one of our good Patreons and I talk to him quite a bit.
Oh,
and,
that's awesome.
I know what he wants to know, and we're gonna get there, dude. But I'm gonna save that for later.
Cool. Yeah.
Because I think I have a way I want to have that conversation. But let's play this song. I got to take a leak, anyways.
Good.
We're gonna
Yeah,
mute
I've
these.
been the Coots light are going through me. So.
The Coots lighter. Oh, what?
Not gonna let you.
What?
Oh, I bet it's because it's Vivo. Oh yeah, it's
No,
owned.
it's because you guys didn't make it. We can't embed it. That's
There
all
might be another
I
one we
got
can
it.
do. The
No,
in
I
the
got it.
studio
I got
one
it.
we can do.
We just got to go the long way now. It's fine though. Like if I actually want to share it,
Not
I gotta throw
Jarhead.
it up there.
Gotcha.
I don't think I called you a jarhead, bro. I think I said because I can never remember exactly what branch you were in. Now I know it's Army, but I think I said.
Yeah, we're in the back too.
I think
That's
I said
cool.
military sniper.
That's way cooler. You got the whole studio rigged up like that.
Oh yeah, that's a mirror.
That's killer.
Yeah, that's how I get the logo up there.
Nice.
See, that's the cheat, right? You're always trying to figure out how to get it to that. I was like, all right, let's just split the signal and mirror it. Whatever
Nice.
comes out of this computer to that monitor gets mirrored up there.
Okay.
Done,
Nice
son.
work, man. You're the singer. Goddamn professional.
I don't know about that, but I'll take it, buddy.
You got my recommendation.
All right, this should come up right away now. All right, so we'll play this, and then what we got to do is I gotta see. I still have this as the ability. This is the backup plan. I just don't like doing this because it's the load on the computer is ridiculous. You see what's happening down here?
Oh yeah,
it doesn't like it. It does not like it at all. Oh shit! Oh shit!
We got some lead shit going.
See how it went right into Pink Floyd?
Exactly.
Ha! Ha!
The algorithms,
ha!
baby.
The algorithm.
We're in the algorithms now, baby.
I see the algorithm. The algorithm is me.
See what we're doing? It's already working in our favor.
But how ironic is that? The band that all the bands you mentioned, I was like, yeah, but
Yep.
it's really Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
When the algorithm got its hands on it, why can't I get off this fucking screen? What is going on here? Oh, I know why. Because we shared this a different way. We're not doing the same. None of my controls are going to work. We got to do that. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. We'll get to the snare and the kick drum stuff for sure.
Yeah, we're going to wrap this up in about 45 minutes.
Nerdy shit to get to.
We're going to wrap this up in about 45 minutes, and then we're going to get to those kind of questions in the Patreon.
Yeah.
We're going to, just so you guys know what's going on. So at right around 9 o'clock, we're just going to shut this thing down hard. We're going to relaunch another episode in the Patreon. It'll be like a matter of 2-3 minutes for me. And then for anybody that's already subscribed to the Patreon, that's all it's going to be is we're going to be talking to you guys. We're going to go super inside baseball on the bit. Cloth, you're obviously invited. Anybody who's already in, and a couple close friends we're going to invite to that one as well. And
yeah.
Then we can
let's do it. I love it.
Then we can start violating corporate policies. We don't have to worry about jobs.
Exactly.
All right, let me close this window over here just so we're not keeping that load on the computer. There we go. All right. So yeah,
cool. Yeah.
So
thanks for sharing that stuff, man. I appreciate you kind of pimping my stuff and letting me run my mouth.
No
a little
problem,
bit.
dude. Honestly, man, here's the deal. And I say this over and over again. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. You guys come on. It gives me somebody to talk to. We're able to promote the scene together. You know, rising tide raises all ships type mentality.
Absolutely.
Having great musicians like yourself not only come on, but come on again. I mean, let's just be honest. I'm going to be transparent with it, man. It helps me build credibility. It helps me build my brand. You know what I mean? Because I've had, like, for example, the first time you decided to come on, you were like, I checked out some of your shows. I know and respect a bunch of these people. Yes, I'll come on. Meaning if they wouldn't have come on, maybe you're like, I don't know this dude well enough. Fuck this guy. Well, that's already been paid forward again. And so the least I can do is let you guys, not even allow it, but let it happen. Like, you know what I mean? Facilitate it more is a better word. Facilitate you guys not only plugging your shit, but playing the music for people. Because I realized early on doing this podcast that we're doing a great job of describing and promoting your bands, but I was like, God, I wish we could just play it for people. But I hadn't figured that part out yet. So it's a big part of the podcast, and I think it's important.
You got to know what you can and can't play just from a copyright perspective, too. I mean, that's another skill.
I mean, I get flagged for every one of it. Here's the deal, is I've already resolved at some point in time, y'all got to give me music release forms. I'm just not at the point where I have to worry about it yet.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, YouTube will give it to me. But there will come a day where I'm going to have to submit verifiable paperwork.
Hey, man, that's a good problem to have, though, right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's definitely the right way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully. It doesn't seem like YouTube's going to shut you down like something like Twitch would either. You know, they're pretty open to things, you know, if anything.
It's procedural. I don't want to get too nerdy with it. It's procedural. There's like a surface level. You know, if you look at it like a wound, you know, there's like a flesh wound.
Yeah.
And that's a copyright strike or whatever, or a flag or whatever, a something like that.
Sure.
And then you can appeal that once, and most of the time, like 99% of the time, I get it.
Okay.
And they're like, "Yep, no problem."
Good to know.
I'm like literally the artist on my podcast, the guest himself, the writer and owner gave me permission. And sometimes I've even had you guys be like, do I have permission?
Right. You got to do something. Yeah.
But
that's good.
There's
I do have one more we can do if we get to it, which is another.
Totally.
It's the actual audio from the album.
But if they deny it, dude. But if they deny it, then I can appeal it. But if they deny it again, if they deny my appeal, I get a strike. And you only get 3 of those on your channel.
Sure.
Period. Dunzo.
Okay.
So
yeah, gotta be careful.
Not worth it.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Gotta be careful.
So eventually someday I'll have to do it a very specific way to minimize my risk. And YouTube seems really cool, so maybe they'll create a way where I can preemptively, and that's what I want. That's what I've emailed them and asked them for.
Yeah.
And when they put out the creator service, I'm asking for preemptive music release. Like, because then I can have you guys fill out a form or in advance say, we're going to play this song. We're going to play this YouTube video. I have permission from these guys. They're my guests, blah, 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 blah. Some way for me to do that so I never get flagged in the first place.
Gotcha.
That's what I want. And I understand that's a lot, but I also think that's realistic and it's the future.
You're making content for YouTube, so they really have no reason not to entertain you with that. You know?
And they already build in weird loopholes. Like if we paused it every, I think it's 25 seconds.
Okay.
And said something about it, especially if we said something negative, it immediately falls under the laws of journalistic critic credibility. So it's like now you're a critic. Yeah. And so it's literally open, free public rights or whatever
crazy?
It's called.
They allow that shit?
They have to because it's the law.
Right.
Like it's not even YouTube is taken out of the equation.
Well, yeah. And
I'm just asking for one step.
But
somewhere, because I want you guys to be able to promote your shit for free on this podcast.
Yeah.
Especially the bigger this podcast gets. But the bigger this podcast gets, the more incentive you have to promote your shit, right?
Right.
But that's the bigger risk for me. Because the bigger my podcast gets, if I get copyright infringement, it can take up to 30 days to fix that problem. If I'm literally demonetized and I can't make money, then I no longer have the ability to pay a producer and a company and a lawyer and all that shit to allow us to do. You see what I'm saying? It's a negative feedback loop. So all I'm asking for is YouTube to just let us do it up front.
Yeah.
I want to let you know I'm playing these 3 songs tonight from this artist on my podcast. Here's the music release forms, or here's whatever I need. Don't flag me up front.
Yeah. Well, you got
because they flag you in real time. That's the point.
They do, I suppose.
Yeah. Like if I'm sitting here playing an NFL game, they'll just shut down the stream.
Oh wow!
Like because the algorithm works in real time.
Suppose.
Yeah, so let it work in real time, then, motherfuckers. Let me upload my shit and give me a pass in real time.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah.
But like you said, we're the ones creating the content. If we're doing it legitimately above board, get out of our way.
Right.
Or at least give us the tools so you don't get in our way.
Right. Yeah, man. No, it's cool. No, I appreciate you.
But that was super
stuff,
inside baseball. Anyways, I actually said we weren't going to do that, and then I did it anyways. Classic me. But I do want to talk about the difference between your style of playing, your musical mentality of songwriting, and your approach, and the gear you use to execute this expression. I know that's a lot of snobby words, but I think it's important to use those exact words. So you do a lot of different styles of music, which is one of the reasons I respect you so much as a musician and as a drummer. And when I've tried to explain people that we might be fucking with each other a couple months ago or even possibly in the future, the reason I'm so giddy about that idea is because I'm like, no, this motherfucker is a musician who happens to play drums. Whereas most dudes I know, the best I could ever hope for is a guy who's a songwriter who plays drums. But most guys are just a drummer who hits shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the reason I saw that and was immediately like, no, this is the fucking dude, is because it's not just the style of music you can play. It's not just the way you play the drums. It's not just the way you articulate your songs as you're writing them from a drumming perspective, but also the gear. So we can keep it palatable for, general listeners.
Yeah.
why is it so important you do that? Not just for the obvious reasons, but also to you. Like, what's the motivation and the incentive behind taking such a drastic and broad approach rather than just being like, I'm a fucking funk drummer or a death metal drummer?
It's kind of similar to what we were talking about while the video was playing, which is there's this whole other audience out there. Right. Right. But it's, it's kind of the same reason you were saying. There's people overseas that speak different languages, right? They might not fully understand what you're saying, right? But if you can give them a piece of content that's more their style, they're going to understand. They might finally vibe with that, and then that gives them a pass to come and discover your other stuff, right? If you're just playing a certain style of music, you're pigeonholing yourself into just that crowd, right? But I think the prog stuff, the metal stuff, even some of the more commercial music, that can all be respected, So I think it's important to not pigeonhole yourself into one thing, especially if you have the skills and the talents and the balls really to stretch out and do other things. I think that's important to do. And even for yourself as a musician, you can get bored, you can get stagnant, you can become jaded on something, right? So I think it's good to keep things fresh for yourself, even sanity wise. So, it's you do the metal stuff, then go and do the prog stuff, and then go and do the commercial music. I just did a session that was literally last week. I wrapped it up. It's literally like jazz fusion lounge music.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I don't care if it's something that I can play and I, can get off on it, then so be it. I'm just reaching a whole nother audience,
Right.
I think that's kind of really, really the main reason.
So how far does that reach go without getting crazy? Like, how many different drum kits do you have? How many different cymbal sets do you have in order to achieve that? Because not only do we talk about a full toolbox or a full deck in our playing, but the instruments on drums, much like guitar, but more drastic than guitar, change the way we are able to even express all of those things. So how many different kits and all that shit do you have?
So I have one drum kit, and it was a custom built drum kit. There's no brand to it, but I had him build me a massive drum kit. So it's 20 by 20 inch kick drum, which
nice,
is
tiny, punchy,
pretty bizarre. But when you're playing big arena metal stuff, you can put a trigger on that and you can make it sound however you want, right? So it's very flexible. So the toms, there's an 8, 10, 12, 14, 15, and 16 inch tom for this kit, right? So a jazz fusion gig, I'm going to use 10, 12, 14 inch toms. A rock gig, I'm going to use 14, 16 inch toms, right? So again, it's one drum kit, but I'm using different size toms depending on the style of music it is.
You switch out your cymbals?
Kind of. I have a large kind of category of them, but with cymbals for me, it's really just about what isn't broken or what is available, right?
So let me ask you this. We'll keep it tight. So you got a custom shell kit.
Yep.
And for people that don't understand, shells are the wood part of the drums.
Yep.
What is the main brand of cymbals that you use? Like, what's the largest part of your collection?
It's all Sabian stuff.
Sabian.
And that's really just because a couple years into touring with Dead to Fall, I started working with Sabian, and I was sponsored by them, and they replaced everything I had with all Sabian stuff, and I really just kind of maintain that relationship. Just because when I am making content, I want it to all be the same brand. I want to always promote that company because it's just good business practice, right? It's good. It just keeps them happy, It's
so you just got to grip a Sabian cymbal. You can go basically get an a Zildjian A custom sound. You could go and get a dry sound. You can get what you need out of your collection. That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
So this is one of my favorite questions. One of the Patreons requested I start asking you guys. So that's what you do play.
Mm-hmm.
If money is not an issue, pick anything you want. What's the dream gear? What's the dream setup? You just make it up right now.
It would DW drums. I think it would either be DW or Sonar. I think would be the drums specifically.
Any like specific wood types?
For rock stuff, for heavier stuff, it would be birch.
Okay.
The heavier, thicker, deeper, warmer stuff. I think my style of playing really resonates really well with those sounding drums. I'm a heavy hitter. I need to be kind of told to tone it down if I'm not doing that.
I feel that.
You know, it's
the
dopamine wants to hit hard. You know,
that resonates with me.
Drummer talk. Yeah.
The drummer pun.
Yeah. Symbol wise,
it's a prun.
I don't really know. I mean, it comes down to. I think it comes down to just if I'm going to work with a company, I'm going to work with a company that's going to promote me, not even so much the sound, right? I mean, especially as a recording artist.
Is that because you have confidence to make it sound dope?
Pretty much, yeah. Also, in a live environment, it's up to the sound guy to make it sound how he wants to sound, really, you know, in a studio environment.
So as long as you're happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, feel, you know, that's really important to me. And feel is mostly going to come from muscle memory for me, right? I've been playing Sabian the longest, so that's just what I'm comfortable with, you know? So I would say Sabian and DW or Sonar drums would be I could work with them forever. Unless somebody's going to be like, Meinl's going to come in and we're going to pay you specifically to exclusively play on this stuff. Then sure, if you're going to fucking give me money and pay my bills, I'll play on whatever the hell you want me to play on. But, you know, I'm just, you know, that's kind of an end game adult retirement level type of thing to shoot for, right?
Sure.
At least from my perspective. So yeah, I would say those are the things. DW and DW or Sonar. I think even probably a little bit even more Sonar, just because it's not American, it's European. It's, you know, it's a little more family history. It's a little more specialized. DW to me almost kind of comes across as very like American corporate business practice, you know, which is a little, from a creative, is a little more stuffy to me. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, again, what's that business behind it? What's going to allow me to have the most freedom? If I go overseas and I need a kit, who's going to be able to give me the kit that I want? You know,
it's funny you say that, because I've talked to other online content creators about this too.
Yeah,
and they kind of say the same thing. So they start going towards like the boutique companies and the custom made stuff, and we're going to save who made your kit for the Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
But what I noticed though is when you go that boutique shit, the stuff is so expensive and their sponsorship budget is so small that sometimes there's little to no discount.
Right.
And so financially, as a musician who's looking to be profitable, right? Because we got to build our own business, just like these companies got to build their business, these gear manufacturers. So guys that can afford to buy, you know, an $1,800 cab brand new, a guy that can't afford to buy a $6,500 custom built guitar, no problem, cool, dope. But here's the reality: most entertainers, athletes, musicians survive not on salaries but on sponsorships.
Exactly.
And we get paid, plus we get free shit to wear. We get paid, plus we get free shit to drive. So when, as a musician, the money in this industry, I think a lot of people don't understand this, even at the pro level, you make money in this world using other people's money.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Your business is profitable to where a lot of these things, it's not easy for a lot of guys to drop 10 to 12 grand on a pro rig for most of us, those things are accumulated over 15, 20 years.
Right.
Because we started off broke at 16, had part-time shitty jobs because we were trying to rehearse. We were trying to be good at music. You don't have time to work.
Right.
A lot of us fucked up in school or didn't go to school or dropped out of school so we could be dope at something else.
Right.
So the income never came like it did for so a lot of guys are like, how do you not have 5-10 grand? It's like, dude, because we didn't do all the things that life needs you to do to have 5-10 grand.
Right.
Like that.
Right.
The reason I have a $10,000 drum kit is because that's what it would cost for me to buy everything brand new right now. But I didn't spend anywhere close to 10 grand, bro. Most of that shit I bought was used, or I used my Guitar Center employee discount at my part-time job to buy dope shit for, like, seriously, I think my hi-hat stand is $300 or $400 brand new.
Believe it.
I bought it for $100 used. You see what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
But it's still $400.
Right.
Because I even had this argument on the other side of things when somebody was like, oh, it doesn't cost that much, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, I ain't fucking bringing my $10,000 drum set on stage with you fucking rocking a $500 practice amp. It's an insult, dude. And he's like, your drum set does not cost 10 grand. And I broke that shit down piece for piece. And he thought I was bullshitting until because he's an insurance guy. And then he wrote it, and he's like, it's actually...
Of course he is an insurance guy.
He's actually...
Because he doesn't actually fucking pay for anything up front.
He goes, it's actually $13,800 after taxes, Jared. I go, yeah, I fucking know, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
I fucking know.
And that's...
One cymbal, you break one cymbal,
you're out...
$300.
At least.
At least. On a pro level. Because you can go buy, like, some ZBT shit for...
Right. And that's your muscle memory building. That's your getting your 10,000 hours in type of shit. Right. But
I actually break less cymbals as you buy nicer cymbals because they flex more.
Exactly.
You think cheaper cymbals are thicker, they break less. No, they're more brittle. They're thicker. They're like bones.
There's this thing in the back of the mind where you're like, I probably shouldn't just beat the shit out of this thing. I spent a lot of money on it, which gets into...
That goes back to the beginning of our conversation, which is like, I don't think I have valued enough of those weird little subconscious things as a musician, whether it's the serotonin and the keep going, whether it's the body posture. And I think these may have been things I was more conscious of younger.
Yep.
And now you're bringing up the same thing. It's like, because I've always understood that. Everybody fucking understands that, right? I brought up a simple, practical, physics-based thing. Here's the deal. Your cymbal's thicker. You think you can hit it, blah, blah. It's more brittle. It'll break easier. And then you immediately brought up the like humanistic, thoughtful side of it, which is you'll also value it more and be more compelled to take care of it, which also means hitting it less hard.
Exactly.
You're so right, though, dude. And all of these things are true.
It's like, all a part of the same process. It's all the same
I'm going
thing.
to take back what I said at the beginning of the podcast, where we disagree.
Okay.
I don't think we disagree. I think I'm not acknowledging the way you look at things enough in my own practices, and I need to be more conscious of that. Because everything I'm saying is definitely true from a practical and physics point of view, but I think you're also right, and I think that's equally important. Because when you start realizing what you're getting out of it mentally and physically and what the incentives are, why we move forward or move backward mentally, not just with the physical side of things.
Well, and then you think about if you're approaching the instrument in that way, I mean, let's take Sabian, right? They're looking at two different drummers. They're looking at somebody that thinks about the equipment that way, and then they think about somebody that doesn't have, that history of thinking about it that way. Well, who do you think they're going to endorse?
Depends on who draws more. Like, honestly. So
that's one thing, but
they might, if you beat the shit out of your cymbals and you don't give a fuck about cymbals, but you still got 1 million subscribers, they'll probably still be like, it's worth it.
Right.
But is what I'm getting at is if you only got 1,000 subscribers, but you show an appreciation, they might still be like, yeah, we'll still fuck with him.
Right. Well, you're not going to be plowing through
product. It's not an either or is what
right?
I'm getting at. It's not an either or scenario.
Right, of course. But
it's do you provide a value incentive to these people fucking with you? Either you're fucking dope and crazy and you break cymbals, but everybody watches you. Great advertising. Good business decision.
Right.
This guy, you know what? Doesn't have a lot of viewers, really appreciates the art, talks a lot in a very positive way about gear he cares about. Walking advertisement for us.
Exactly. And they're not going to have to unload
risk.
a bunch of product on
That's
you
what
that you're just going to break, and they're going to have to keep
That's
giving
what I'm
you
getting
more
at.
product.
Low cost, low risk.
Yeah.
It's great endorsement.
Right.
You know,
Right.
family
there's
friendly,
levels.
whatever verbiage you want to use.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's levels to that shit. You got to prove that you care about the product enough for them to take you seriously, and then you use them as a vehicle to become that thing that draws enough crowd to sell product to where they don't care.
Or you better be Jimi Hendrix.
yeah.
Because literally
choking on a ham sandwich or
No,
whatever.
no, fucking burning the fender and smashing the fender.
Exactly.
Sold more Fenders than anything.
Right.
The single thing that sold more Fender guitars than any other thing in human history was Jimi Hendrix lighting one on fire and smashing it into his guitar cab.
Right. All game, man.
But that's because he was so fucking dope he could do that. It wasn't disrespectful.
Right.
They were like, Jimmy, how many Fenders do you want?
Right. Yeah. How many lighters you got?
But
How
you
much
can
fire?
still get a free Fender or a sponsorship with Fender at a lower level. And even then, sometimes it's still about numbers, but you don't have to have big numbers. You need to show consistent numbers. I used to walk guys through this. It was crazy because as a vocalist, I was never really able to get a sponsorship because I never really used gear. It's not like a guitar player where you're standing there with their brand badge on your fucking chest, or a drummer where, I mean, honestly, a lot of guys don't have custom drum heads with their band names on them, so they got that Tama or the Pearl thing in front of it, right?
Right. Of course.
Vocalists didn't really get that, but I already knew the math and the science behind it, and I walked guys through. I'm like, dude, they don't want to fucking, they don't care about. Listen, here's what you do. You write down how many shows a year you play, how far you play, like cities you play in,
Mm-hmm.
and the average amount of people that come to those shows.
Yep.
That's what you send in. And all of a sudden, all my buddies started getting sponsorships because they all played stringer instruments or drums or whatever.
Absolutely.
And they were minor. Sometimes it was just a massive discount, like 50% off anything, because it was strings. You know, so your $5 strings went to $250.
Right.
But
And
that
that's
shit adds up.
That's a standard tour management practice. I mean, capacity at the club tonight, 300 people. Okay, what percentage of that club did you fill, right? You take those numbers night after night. That's data the industry wants to make business decisions, right? You're generating this data for them to figure out their best investment as marketing or as sales.
Yep.
All the same shit.
It's funny because people are like, so Jared, if you know so much, why aren't you doing it? I'm like, because I haven't earned it again yet.
Because you're fucking running a goddamn podcast, man.
That's a part of it, but I haven't earned it. Like, I don't deserve any of those achievements yet. It's the same reason I don't have 1,000 subs yet. You know,
Sure. Well,
it's like, dude, because all the it's like the NFL. What have you done for me lately?
mhm.
The industry doesn't care what we did 10 years ago.
Right.
It's what are you doing now?
Yep. What have you done for me
I'm not
lately?
doing anything now. I'm trying to get a project together. And before the podcast even started, we were talking while the ad reads were playing and shit. You know, I started off with one hurdle, fix that. Another hurdle, fix that. Third hurdle, fix that. The current hurdle I'm at right now is dope musicians. Love the music, love the project, love the business plan. Still too fucking busy. So I got to be patient.
Yeah.
I got to be patient.
is important.
And in order for me to get it there, I got to be good enough. And that's in every possible aspect you can imagine. What's he talking about right now? I'm talking about tracking. I'm talking about performing. I'm talking about branding. I'm talking about merch. I'm talking about sales. All of it. Anything you could possibly. I haven't earned it yet. That's why I know what I'm fucking talking about, but aren't doing it. It's because I'm doing it.
Yeah.
You're not going to see the accomplishments of what I'm talking about until 2 years after I've done it. Then
Yeah.
you're going to be like, oh shit, I wish I would have.
You're grinding that RPG, dude.
Dude, exactly, man. And you don't, it's about the process. It's
It is.
about the process.
And it should be. It's the journey, right? It's not
Because-
the end result.
Right. And that's the point, right? Is like, and I've talked about this a lot lately, is like the patience and the journey. And what does that mean? And it's like, I tried to explain this to Justin and Jerry that were on the podcast. And it's like, because if you only focus on the goal, once you achieve the goal, Then what?
Then what?
Okay.
Exactly.
I was super drunk. That's a smooth brain way to look at that. True, but very dumb. The second level is this, because the achievement is all the obstacles and growth you made and became along the way. So whether or not you actually bench 400 or not is irrelevant. The fact is you started barely being able to bench 200.
Right.
And the accomplishment of going from 200 to 399 is more of a fucking accomplishment than just benching 400.
Yeah, and I see
getting good at something.
Yeah, and
finishing something.
And you see all these people.
That's the fucking journey. That's why that story matters. That's why you hear all these motherfuckers talk about this shit.
You see these guys
like a religion
winning Super Bowls. You see these guys winning, Emmys. You see these guys winning Grammys, and they get on stage and they're in tears, and you're seeing them, and you're like, that's kind of cringe, bro. But I think they're genuine about those tears, right? Because they've put in that time and they're reflecting on how
on the journey
fucking much work they've put in to get there.
Exactly. It's exactly that. It's not the actual Super Bowl trophy. It's not the actual Emmy or
they're
Oscar.
Just like,
it's the accomplishment of what they just overcame.
I just time traveled through 2 to 3 decades of grinding my ass off with no result, and now I have this result, and it's kind of like when you're grinding for a couple weeks and then you finally sit down and breathe, and then you get sick because you're finally letting your body come to terms with what you've just put it through.
Let's give a real world example.
Yeah.
And I'm going to double team this from 2 ends.
Wow.
Here we go. Two analogies at once, just because not everybody can relate to everything.
Yeah,
right?
I'm all about analogies.
Right. So you're a new musician. You finally put a band together. We all know how hard that is just to get to there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you actually somehow put a record together. And then somehow you actually figure out a way to not do a talent show or a local county fair, but like a real show at a real venue where people are paying. And there's it's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right then and there, we've all accomplished this on this podcast. Every single guy who's been on this podcast has accomplished this. The first time that happens, I bet you didn't sleep that night. I bet you didn't. I bet you were up till sunrise. That adrenaline was pumping all fucking night. Because it is so hard to you weren't actually up till sunrise because you played a show and you killed it.
Right.
No, you played a show because you achieved your dream.
Yeah.
And then same thing, that first time you play for a sold out crowd at a real venue, same thing. Maybe it's the same venue you played your first show at.
Mm-hmm.
The first time you stayed up till sunrise because there was 50 people there. 50 people.
Yeah.
50 people came and seen us. Oh my God. Right? But then.
Are you talking after you played the show or the night before you played the show?
You get done playing the show. There was 50 people there that night and you don't go to bed. You're just so high on adrenaline.
Yep. Exactly.
Right? You and your boys got the after show. You're rock stars now. Okay. Fast forward 5 years.
Yep.
50 people. You go home a little bitter. You're like, fuck, man.
Maybe.
We put all that, whatever. But then all of a sudden, you play your first show. You're a headliner, a local headliner. Or maybe you're not even the headliner, but you're direct support. I can relate to this specifically, and a lot of people here can relate to this. Mm-hmm. Whether you're the local headliner or you're direct support, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You finally play because you're not the opener. That's my point. You've achieved blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
All of a sudden you play your first sold out show. 1,000 people, 1,500 people. It's fucking packed. You're truly crushing it. All of a sudden you're up till fucking. Now your reason for being up till sunrise is because 1,500 people first sold out show. But the reason you have that euphoric feeling is not because of that night. It's because of the accomplishment and all the shit you overcame to get there into that night. Into that moment.
Yes.
It's an achievement that is way more than that night. And that's why guys cry. That's why grown men will break down in tears of joy. Even fans. fans. I there's this old meme, one of the first new wave internet memes. My wife gets mad because I don't cry when I watch our wedding video. But I instantly cry when somebody talks about the 1991 Twins World Series Game 7.
Oh, no.
But that's men.
Yeah.
That's
right.
men. Because we cry tears of joy when it comes to overwhelming journeys of accomplishment, where we people doubted us, maybe we were injured, we overcame a physical or an emotional or a mental hurdle.
It's mental fatigue, you know?
And then you start building the team idea into it, and that's where we relate to as musicians. I think a lot is we're a team. We're not comedians. We're not tennis players.
Mm-hmm.
We're not actors. Sort of like actors, though, because there's a whole ensemble going on there. Like, we have sound guys and light guys, too.
Yeah, of course.
It's not just us on stage.
Right.
It's not just the
and
band
they're all
members.
going through the same journey, and they're there to work for you. So that pressure is added. It's not even just about me anymore. It's about all these other people that have gone through the same journey, and they're helping me get there. That pressure is even more because now you're responsible for more people in their journey, right?
I don't even think they're there to work for us, though. I think the great ones, the great crews, understand that they're also there to work for the crowd.
Oh, of course.
The great sound guys, the great lighting guys, they're not there to make you, Tim, the drummer, happy. They're there to make the fucking crowd think you're the greatest fucking drummer, because they're those weird, truly humble guys who get a euphoric rock star experience off you doing so well that you come up and thank them.
And that's the point.
Because they go,
the
you
team
couldn't
effort.
do it without me.
Yeah, of course.
They get off
the
on
team
that.
effort. They're not going to have a good show unless I have a good show, right? And if we both have a good show, we've all done our job. And that is shown by the crowd reaction, right? So that's, again, as the dream and the thing grows, you accumulate a bigger crew. Your corporation grows, right? Your team grows. And the bigger that team gets, the more people you're responsible for, the more dreams you're responsible for. 100%. So that just adds to the weight of the responsibility, not just for yourself now, but for everybody else too. You know, that's where the weight is. That's why the grind is important. And that's why I think that's why people get emotional about it.
And shit. I think a lot of us, when we're young, find pleasure in the grind without knowing why. Kind of like the Alexander technique.
Yeah.
Kind of like those other things we're talking about.
You learn these weird things in order to fulfill those
But then as we
goals,
get older,
right?
it just seems like work. And as we get older...
Yeah, it's true.
Or if we're young and improperly raised, we only focus on the end result and the goal. We don't realize that the actual... Like, for example... and this is the last thing I'm going to say on this, and then I want to answer a couple of these questions and invite people to the after show on Patreon, because it's almost 9 o'clock here.
We'll get super nerdy. Oh, look at that. Ritual Madness is here. Chillian, what up?
So,
that's
Wolf of Wall Street.
Chilton. Sorry, Greg.
Chilton. I call him Chili.
Chili? All right, I'm going to stick with that.
Chili. I think it's a great name. Chili. If your name is Chili, how do you not respect somebody named Chili? Don't make fun of a guy named Chili ever.
No.
It could be because of his stone cold ice blood running through his vein. You know what I mean? Don't make fun of someone named Chili. It's a dope name.
Yeah.
But no, here's my final thing. Here's my final analogy on this. If you're only focused on the end result, Wolf of Wall Street. Dude's like, I made $11 million last year.
That fucking movie.
I know, right?
Literally one of my favorite movies.
Here's a great example. I made $11 million last year, which pissed me off because I was 1 million short of $1 million a month.
Yeah.
See, if you're you still made $11 million.
Right.
Think of what you came from, which is why these guys never appreciate being there.
Right. It's that incremental goal,
which is fine.
Yeah.
But
that's how it works.
But he never cried tears of joy. He always felt like he fell short because he was only focused on the goal. Whereas the guys like Tom Brady, who fucking tear up at their own draft selection video, still to this day, 7 Super Bowls later, still tears up to that shit.
Yeah.
Because he's understanding the journey, which is why he's 40 plus years old and still enjoying football.
Agreed, 100%. And all the people that talk shit the whole time, and he can just, in that moment, he's like, see, fuck you. You were wrong.
Yeah, so that's just like secret nasty motivation to keep
Love
going.
it.
But
Love it. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna ask a couple silly
Killer.
questions, and then we're gonna shut this down, and we're gonna do a Patreon post show where we're gonna get super inside baseball. We're gonna really start answering like gear questions, and like we're gonna have less of a conversation between us, and we're gonna talk directly to you guys. So we're gonna just do a couple. Do you like Slipknot?
Dude, I love Slipknot.
I know, me too.
I didn't really listen to them when they started coming out because I was still kind of in my prog phase. But as I became more embedded in the metal scene, it was very clear they were kind of running with the baton.
And it's more than just fast and heavy. Like there's some real deep level songwriting going on there.
And you want to talk about struggle and the shit people... I mean, motherfuckers have... How many dudes have like died in that band and shit? Like, and have gotten, I mean,
at least 2, right?
Yeah.
3?
Well, the drummer, guitar player,
and the bass player, right?
Did he? I guess I don't know.
Maybe it was just 2. We just talked about this on a previous podcast.
Yeah. But also just the outright fucking like intensity. Like when you talk about goals and putting it all on the line and shit, like, dude, ridiculous. And the fact that they got Homeboy playing drums now who, you know, come on, let's be real. That's an important band in history now.
Well,
so
plug
you're
your
an
shit.
Asshole if you don't like Slipknot at this point.
I agree. I have some respect at least. If you don't like them, have some respect at this point. Like, yeah. No, they're. I think they're the best nu metal band out of that whole thing that happened.
Yeah. Also
so
a good point because they rode the nu metal thing out of nu metal.
Yeah. They're the only ones that are like legit. Them and I would say Seven Dust.
Absolutely.
Seven Dust never lost respect from anyone.
Whereas Bury Your Dead, touring and playing with Bury Your Dead, they talked about Seven Dust all the time.
Whereas, like, just to do a quick comparison, Korn, Limp Bizkit, some of those other bands, a lot of people grew out of them and no longer respect them the way they did.
Yeah.
No one does that with Seven Dust. No one does that with Slipknot. Like, more people appreciate them. The more mature we get, the older we get, the more we understand and appreciate, the more respect you give those two bands. That's what I think is the big difference between Seven Dust and Slipknot out of the nu metal genre.
Also, Korn is a good example too, especially for drummers. Because
they did lose a lot, though. They lost a lot of respect, dude. A lot of people outgrew them.
But in the grand scheme of things, so Ray Luzier, I saw Ray Luzier play for the David Lee Roth band a decade before he ever played for Korn.
Actually, you know what? Let's put a pin in this.
Yeah.
This is where we'll start off.
I'm going to start unloading all the.
This is where we'll start off the Patreon. If you guys haven't already, we're going to do a post show. If you haven't already, right now, do this. Go to patreon.com/Jared Singer Live. Join the Patreon. You can do it for $3 a month. We're starting to put bonus content on the channel right now. We're going to shut this version of the podcast down, and we're going to do a Patreon-only version. So you have to already be a part of Patreon as of 5 minutes from now. And you guys are going to be able to, like, this is what we're going to do for the next basically hour. He's got 55 minutes and he's got a hard out at 10. So we're going to shut this down now. Where can people check your shit out? Kimono.
I mean, if you want to know everything I'm up to, just Google Timothy Java.
Timothy Java.
Yeah. TimothyJava, like coffee. Just it's all there in Google.
He owns that SEO.
Yep.
You did a really good job on the SEO, dude. If you guys want to follow me, all my social media shit, if you want to see me tweet and say a bunch of dumb shit on the internet, everything's Jared Singer Live. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everything's Jared Singer Live. Other than that, hit like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. All that part is free. Helps the channel a ton. We love you guys. Thank you. We're going to mute this, hit the outro, and then we're going to Patreon. Patreon.com/Jared Singer Live.
Hit it up.